on this computer. Hello again, everybody. Welcome. I cannot believe it took me this long to get this new episode of the Total Basis podcast, because it's not just the new episode, it's the season premiere of season 5. And I have a special guest with me. It's my wrestling podcast partner over at the Wrestling Purest Podcast. It's Harry Siberium. Harry, how you doing this evening?
Hey, brother, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I've been better, tired, exhausted, but anytime we talk about baseball and especially fantasy baseball, I get re-energized. So we will quickly go through this. And Harry, you will admit that you are not the biggest fantasy baseball expert or the biggest fantasy baseball fan, but something special happened this year. You did something in fantasy football that has led us to tonight. Can you give us a little bit of background on how you ended up here tonight?
Yeah, I ended up winning a fantasy football league with my buddy Joe. Joe Pollock and we decided to partner up in a bigger league, and we made it from sixth place. We actually by point five got the sixth place spot, 0.5 points, and we ended up winning out. And so we ended up winning a nice chunk of change, and it impressed the commissioner. And I had spoken to him a few times. I said, if you ever have another league, let us know. And hopefully we're invited back. And then immediately, like a couple weeks later, hey, we had a guy fought a fantasy dynasty draft. Are you interested? And I went to Joe right away, and I'm like, what do you think? And he was in automatically. He's done a couple, he's done some baseball stuff. He won like 5 years ago, so he knows some stuff. He took a couple years off. I told Joe outright, I said, I haven't done this since Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor. And he goes, wow. And I'm like, yeah, it's been that long.
No, not just wow, because that's when I started my keeper league. It was in 2002, and with Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor and Sammy Sosa, uh, and White Sox had today Paul Konerko and who the hell was the pitcher? Anyway, go on. Sorry about that. Go on.
No. So I don't remember that because the one kid in the league that we did it with, his kid's name was Dan something. I forget his last name, but we used to work with him when I worked at Nike. He had Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor, and he literally won the league just with those two guys. Like those two were just like lights out that year. Like it had to be '03 and the '04 or no, it had to be '03 or '04, one of the two. I think it was '03.
Yeah, Hell 3 for
Because
sure.
it was like it was amazing. Like he had a decent roster. Don't get me wrong, but just the pitching was just top shelf. Like it was just unreal, and like you couldn't catch him. He like took off a couple weeks in, and there was no like he just annihilated everybody. So that's how I remember. And then I just kind of like shied away from it. It wasn't a big deal. I got more serious with my wife. Which she wasn't my wife yet, but now she's my wife. And then, just between basketball and different stuff, I just kind of got away from it.
Hmm.
And then, when my father died in '07, like, and I started working, in my new, you know, um, trade, which was, exterminating, I kind of just shied from baseball a little bit. Like I still followed it, Jeter was still playing that at that point, but I wasn't following it enough to like play fantasy baseball. And then I still follow baseball now a little bit. I follow what the Yankees are doing, but I finally, learned that like I don't know enough about baseball anymore, like I think I do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like baseball has changed a lot. I know some of the, big players, but besides that, and besides my homegrown Yankees, I don't know much about baseball anymore. But decided to take the chance anyways. It's a keeper league, dynasty. They throw back the players every 3 years. That happens next year or something, supposedly. Um, so we're gonna have a, figure I'm playing my house money regardless. Joe's excited, I'm excited. We really like the partnership thing. We didn't realize how much we see eye to eye during football. So I think we're gonna keep that, chemistry going.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do that. But what I will say is that I realized in previous years of fantasy football, I never really did my homework the way I should have. I
Mm.
just kind of like, okay, well, I'll just kind of go with the flow, and I really screwed myself, excuse my language, but out of different opportunities. This past year for fantasy football, I won three leagues. One was free, but it was just a bunch of friends who were competitive. Um, and then two were for money. And I actually did my homework. Like
Hmm.
I listened to every fantasy football podcast while I was driving when I wasn't listening to the Laps fan. No, sorry, a little crossover there. Um, and then you know, I just literally studied, and so football became a lot easier for me.
Mm.
And there's some luck in there too, right? But then I looked at baseball and I was like, oh my God, I need Felipe's help. So I just came to you for help. Like, okay, I'm listening to your podcast, dude. I'm gonna get you, and then you're like, hey, wait a minute, like, you should come be a guest. Like, we should, you know, kind of mold you into this. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to for you to take me under your wing and help me out and teach me this stuff because yeah, I had the roster in front of me. I had the roster over here, and I'm just like, okay, I know who Clayton Kershaw is. I know who Cody Bellinger is.
Mhm.
And then there's a bunch of other guys, and I'm like, oh my God. So who's Real Moto? You know what I mean? Like who's Merrifield? Like I don't know who these I don't know. It's sad. I know I'm embarrassing myself, but I'm being honest. I don't know who these people are.
All right. Well,
I
that's
don't
what.
I don't
Uh,
know.
well, that was part of the intrigue. Like I said, I like to have every season that I do of this podcast have a certain running theme, a certain some connection to uh throughout the entirety of the season, and that's why I turn into Vince McMahon. Hey, wait a minute, I got an idea. Yeah, and that was my idea. Was well, let's see. Let's see. I mean, Harry's already doing podcasts with me anyway. We do a wrestling podcast called Wrestling Purist, and which we haven't done in a while because it's like I had a feeling this was going to happen. It's fantasy baseball season for me. It's the peak of it all. So when I'm not the little free time I do have, I'm right now I'm trying to sort through all these prospects, and I every year I could tell myself that I'm way over my head on doing this, but it helped so much last year, especially on the pitching side, just trying to have a list of pitching prospects to look out for throughout the year. And that's when I found out about guys like Bobby Miller, Tanner Bybee. And again, these are guys you're probably wondering who are these people that you're talking about? Bobby Miller. You're talking about Bobby Hill, the guy from King of the Hill, that's the son. No, there's a guy. There's literally a guy named Bobby Miller. And as you saw, Clayton Kershaw there resign. Well, one of the reasons why the Dodgers probably felt that they didn't really need Clayton Kershaw to come back because Bobby Miller had such a outstanding rookie year last year. At least I thought he did. I mean, he helped me on a lot of my teams last season. But at any rate, but I figured, you know what, this is good. I mean, he's already doing podcasts with me. Let's venture off into base, because I already talk baseball on your podcast. And when I say your podcast, I mean the podcast that you founded. So I might as well go all the way through and use you for my podcast. Uh, Give a fresh outlook and you know what, and see, and it's like an experiment, right, Perry? Because you're going from a guy who hasn't been paying attention to baseball in general, let alone fantasy baseball. So you said that the game has changed a lot, like, since the last time you really paid attention to it, like hardcore style. Uh, and in parallel, fantasy baseball has also seen a lot of changes. I mean, hell, it goes through so many dynamic changes. We're talking about like maybe every 1, 2, 3 seasons, something's changing. And it's bad enough that the the baseball commissioner's office is changing all these rules, but he's I think the worst aspect of it is like he's changing the baseball. So we saw 2019 a lot of players hit a lot of home runs, especially players who had no business hitting home runs. And then the pandemic happened, and then we were back to a pitching dominant era in 2021 and maybe 2022, but still a lot of hitters were we were going through the launch angle revolution. And then last year, 2023, all the rule changes that open up the offense. So that meant more stolen bases, more base hits, more higher batting averages from what I remember. And pitching suffered. Like nobody could find pitchers anywhere. And that's the thing. You just when the trend hits you, you gotta be able to spot it. It's a practice in pattern formations is more than anything. So I want you to think about that. You're looking for patterns throughout the season, throughout the year, right? And the ones who are able to catch on those patterns right away or relatively sooner rather than later, I think that's an advantage to the person who plays fantasy baseball. And you might be listening and say, "Well, that's a load of crack. What the hell you mean pattern formations?" But it's about noticing trends and yeah, noticing trends, and that goes across any fantasy sport. But I feel like fantasy baseball is one where you really got to pay attention. and not to discourage anybody, but because you got to really pay attention. It might turn off some casual people off. But when I say really pay attention, it's just, every once in a while, just I do it once a week, maybe twice on my because I have access to my to a smartphone like everybody else. I prefer to do it on my laptop, and I have my four screens going out all in one, so I have like different windows open, and it's easier for me. But once a week, I will go on my computer. That's like an hour, 2 hours once a week, and I'll just look at baseball numbers and baseball statistics, and that's a great way of keeping up with the game if you choose to do so. So that's my love of baseball. That's my share of baseball. I talked to you before the year that if it wasn't for fantasy baseball, my career in my bread job um, would probably be stagnant, and I would have no reason to use a spreadsheet. I would not have a reason to use Microsoft Office because the only reason I use those on a regular basis in like my leisure time is because of fantasy baseball. So I am a believer that what you learn from fantasy baseball, you can transpose and juxtapose into other realms. Like another good example, Harry, is just based on how people play fantasy baseball and perform during fantasy baseball drafts. You get a little bit of psychology and ring psychology. You get a little bit of psychology, and you can actually tell a lot about a person by the way they draft, by the way they take care of the roster or lack thereof, or how they utilize the waiver wire, or even how they utilize trades. Like when I see a person that has the urge to perform a lot of trades, that tells me a lot about you, man. I don't know exactly what it tells me, but it tells me a lot about you. Usually these antsy people, these borderline ADHD people who are like, "Oh man, if I'm not making trades, I'm not doing anything. I don't feel productive." And it's like it becomes a rush, right? So that's again, and that's just to show how much I love this hobby of ours, this activity of ours. So that's what you're getting yourself into, Harry. You're getting into someone who's really passionate about this, and I really hope that you feel that passion coming through your screen over there.
I do.
So with that being said, what do you think so far, huh? It's nice and easy. I go gentle on you, but uh but I'm glad that you're back. And I guess coming into this 2024 season, what do you look forward to the most? Whether it be real baseball, fantasy baseball, what are you looking forward to the most into this upcoming season?
Well, I'm both on both ends. I mean, as a Yankee fan, I'm trying to figure out if we're gonna have enough pitching to be able to actually make a decent run. Um, I'm not sold on the kid Stroman. I think he's one hot-head incident away from causing whatever. I'm sure him and Cashman worked out their stuff, but he's still kind of a wild card for me.
Mm.
We need another arm. I don't know where that's going to come from, unless I missed something in the news. But I don't think we haven't signed anyone else since Stroman. Um, I do like the addition of Soto. I just hope he doesn't cost us too much. And hopefully we can actually re-sign him because he's not. Who knows what's going to happen with that. I mean, it's typical Yankee stuff. Like, we got away from, like, piecing things together properly. And you didn't need, a superstar at every position. That's not the legacy I was raised on anyways.
Are you sure
Um,
about that? I mean, George Steinbrenner went out of his way to get a superstar in every position for a while.
every
Oh,
position, Scott Brosius is a superstar, huh?
oh, you're talking about the ninth, the
The
Brian
late 90s.
Cashman. I thought you were talking about the 70s and 80s where he was trying to get a
No, I'm
superstar in
talking
every
about
position.
no, 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 no. I mean, yeah, I was born in '78, so I really
Oh,
didn't know
okay.
much about that. I mean, so my favorite player is Don Mattingly. That's the guy I grew up idolizing. He's still my favorite baseball player of all time. And then obviously, Jeter's right there. Always loved Griffey.
Mm,
Um, even though he's not a Yankee, I just respected Griffey for who he was. But you know, um, I don't know, like I feel like ever since A-Rod came along, things just changed. And then
mm.
back to that kind of like '70s, and '80s chasing for the big player. I don't know, it's weird. But
Yeah, I think the problem with A-Rod was that he actually cost the Yankees so much money that they're traumatized now, and they're actually trying to build things a little bit too cheaply, where
right.
their Cashman hoards a lot of the prospects. Meanwhile, they're losing championships to the rivals, the Red Sox, the Astros, whether you want to call them a rival or not. The Houston Astros are the what do you call it? The gatekeepers
You mean
of the Yankees to. get
You
to
mean
the
the
next level.
you mean the cheaters, right?
Hey, if Major League Baseball was too stupid to trust these Major League Baseball players to have access to all these cameras because of replayability and access, that's on Major League Baseball for not being able to enforce rules and laws. A, a written rule is if it's not enforced, it's just a suggestion. That's my thing. Like you can blame the Astros all you want, but where is Major League Baseball to enforce these rules and laws? It can't. And apparently there were other teams doing it, except that the Astros got caught. Like I'm very ambivalent towards all this whole thing, just like I'm ambivalent towards steroids and PED use, and I'm against on some aspects. Like I don't want to see Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame, but but what's the point, right? Because you already got a bunch of guys who are already PD users. I'm not even talking about Manny Ramirez. Oh no, wait, I'm sorry, not Manny. David Ortiz. I'm sorry. I'm not even talking about David Ortiz or guys like that, but guys like Jeff Bagwell's in the Hall of Fame, and he was rumored to be using Mike Piazza. I could have sworn he wrote a book where he admitted that he used PED use. He made it to the Hall of Fame, so it doesn't matter. But I like seeing Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds not be in the Hall of Fame. That's my thing. It's a crazy dualistic outlook to deal with.
What I'll say is this. What I'll
Go
say
ahead.
is that, I don't think cheating of any kind is really appropriate. I feel like, I guess if you're not, what's the old adage? If you're not trying, you're not, if you're not
It's,
cheating, you're not trying or
yeah,
something.
yeah. That's I think the that one comes from. I don't know where that comes from, but I know that it was popularized in my view, in my growing up as a sports fan, that got popularized by the Oakland Raiders, and their cheating isn't frowned upon. It's not chastised. It's celebrated. It's the Oakland Raiders. It's the autumn wind as a Raider. If you're not cheating, you ain't trying hardy, hard, hard. So it's okay when football players cheat, but when baseball players cheat, which by the way, baseball players cheat all the time. They cheat all the time. It's an art within the sport as old as time, since they were using sticks and rocks to play that game back in the 19th century. It's yeah. It, and then I used to, during that time when the Astros got caught with the garbage cans, I used to say, well, would you want them to cheat to win, or would you want it to be like the 1919 White Sox and cheat to lose?
Yeah,
Really makes you think.
I get it. I just, I try to be a man with integrity. I rather try and
Hmm.
try my best to do it the right way, to some degree, but I don't know. I remember though, I'm a Jet fan that hates Belichick and there's that Spygate and all that there in New
Yeah,
England.
yeah, he
So
got a slap on the wrist and a slap on the face by the American public. But when it's all said and done, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time, according to the court of public opinion, and Bill Belichick is the greatest head coach of all time, according to the court of public opinion. So nothing was damaged
no, I get
in their
that.
legacy. So
I get that. It still doesn't mean I have respect for. I guess I do respect Brady as the GOAT, even though whatever. But after what Belichick did to the Jets, I can never, trust him. But my point of my story is that I don't know. There's something about the Houston Astros just bothers me. It always will. It used to be the Red Sox. I feel like the Yankee Boston rivalry is really not the same anymore. I just don't feel like it is.
because Red
Um,
Sox keep winning every few years or so, and the Yankees have been struggling in this century in
yeah,
terms
they
of winning
have been.
championships. Yeah.
But like I don't know, it used to be, and maybe it's because of the internet and the way things are so accessible and you can
Mm,
DVR.
yeah.
Like you didn't miss a Red Sox. If my father was alive, we didn't miss a Boston New York game. Even my mother-in-law. I remember. Oh man, what was it? What year was it when Jeter fell into the stands and popped his chin? Was it '04
Oh, I don't
or
remember. I know what
oh
you're talking
05?
about, but yeah,
Uh,
mid 2000s was probably
yeah,
peak.
I had to paint my wife's bedroom, for her at her mother's house, And so me and my buddy were there, and we actually took a break. My mother-in-law made us come downstairs and like take a break to watch the game, and then go back up and finish. If you were in the house, you had to watch the game with one of the parents. And if it was my father or if it was her mother, whoever, any diehard Yankee fan, you had to stop what you were doing. It's like in Italy when they shut down the town to have, you know, food around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's the same type of scenario. That's where it
Yeah.
was 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I think what happened was, I mean, like you said, internet, social media, uh, and
DVR.
and DVR. But I mean, yeah, because football you have to watch, both college and pro, and basketball. I mean, and the NBA. Uh, the players, everything is so hung up on the NBA playoffs that players don't take the regular season seriously anymore, and
Right.
that's more the legacy of Michael Jordan than more than anything, because nobody wants to be Charles Barkley when it's all said and done. And yeah, maybe 82 games might be too long of a season, but when you put the utmost importance on the postseason, on the playoff season, then these are the results you get. Now you see that the NBA commissioner is trying to implement a 65 game minimum games played for any superstar player to be eligible for any
The MVP award. Right.
awards.
Right.
I believe, is it the MVP, just the MVP? I'm assuming
Oh
it's
no,
all
I
the
know. I
awards.
guess it's any award. I mean,
Yeah,
Joel Embiid just disqualified himself because he had to have surgery,
yeah, meniscus. Yeah,
on his meniscus. So, but what was he supposed to do?
yeah,
He even said he came out and said he'd rather, not win the MVP and make it to a finals,
yeah.
than win the MVP.
Because
So
that's the legacy, man. Yeah, MVPs are nice, but if you're not winning that ring, your legacy is tarnished in that league. Like there is no I mean, look at Charles Barkley. What do they do on TNT every Thursday? They make fun of the fact that he never won a championship. This guy's an Olympic medalist and a former MVP, one of the top 50 greatest players of all time, but he doesn't have an NBA championship. So they're gonna dog him for that every single chance they get. That's that whether it's right or wrong, and
well, he
as you guys,
tried. He tried. He ran to Michael Jordan.
yeah, I mean
Ran to Michael Jordan, and then joined a Houston team that was just kind of too late.
Yeah,
You know,
yes, he was he's the originator of the super team formation. He's the one who criticized it the most, but he's the one who forced the issue both in Philadelphia and to get out of Phoenix. So in that regard, I don't have any pity for Charles Barkley, but Charles Barkley was an awesome freaking player, man.
of course he was.
It was amazing. And for those who never saw him watch back in the 90s, you all missed out. But unfortunately, he's the guy who never won a championship. Again, Olympic medalist, dream team instrumental player.
I mean,
And
I know
yeah,
this is a baseball, podcast, so I apologize for switching to basketball, but
I think you're getting me back for all the times
but
I always switch it on your wrestling
no, I'm
podcast.
not doing it on purpose at all.
I'm
But the
joking.
point was that since you're talking about Barkley just for 2 seconds here,
Go ahead.
not like he had no one around him in Phoenix either. I mean,
Oh,
Kevin Johnson
those
is a super underrated point guard beyond belief. He was amazing. Dan Marley, was when Jordan wasn't in the league, was top two shooting guard with Latrell Sprewell. Once Jordan was on retirement. I mean, so you had good guys, Cedric Sabalas. I mean, you had players there that could play ball with Barkley. So it wasn't like Barkley was on his own carrying Phoenix to the finals. I mean, there was other components that worked with him. It just didn't work out for him because he ran into Jordan.
Well,
So
I am a sucker for sports history. That you got me, man. You got me. I am a sucker for sports history. This is something that I wish I had available as a kid. Just these wonderful websites that are just available all over like within the touch of a button. But yeah, I would have killed for an almanac just like this. But let's take a look at that team since you mentioned it. And I don't know. Let's sort it. I'm not gonna scare you with any fancy schmancy statistics. We're just gonna use the old good
that's a
old
great team. Look at Tom Chambers, although he was older at that point. Richard
yeah.
Dumas. I mean, Oliver Miller, was probably one of the better big men to ever play, who was like super big, like overweight big. Like I mean, again, he wasn't a superstar, but he was solid enough to play in the league.
For those who can't see, I sorted this one by points per game. Like I didn't want to intimidate Harry with any of those fancy schmancy new wave statistics. But you're right, Charles Barkley, 25.6 points per game and
Right,
12 rebounds a game.
but he's the number one option. That's what's supposed to happen. Then you have Marley
Yeah.
with 16.9, KJ with 16.1, Richard Dumas 15.8, Cedric Sabalas 12.8. I mean, Chambers is 12.2. Even Danny Ainge at that point still hanging around, in his older years at
33 years
11
old.
point.
Yeah.
So it's
Actually,
like so it's not terrible. It's a pretty decent roster.
oh yeah, it's a really good team. Just from uh just from the top seven, top eight on the list here. It's a really good team. There's a reason why they went far that in the final. And as Bulls fans, we were kind of concerned because it was Charles Barkley. He took over the NBA by storm, and the Bulls, we were able to take one away from him, and he never got back.
And he was 6'4". They list him as 6'6", 6'7". He was 6'4".
Yeah, no, he was hungry.
But he was wide, but big and strong. You don't see that type of player no more. Like,
No,
maybe LeBron is as wide as him, maybe. but just not as chunky. But you don't see those big guys like that. Everyone's tall and lanky and skinny now, and all can stretch and shoot the three and
Yeah.
whatever. Like the Karl Malones of the league, the Charles Oakleys, the Rick
Uh,
Mahorns. I mean,
yeah, unless they
you
do
know,
something to revolutionize the game the way that baseball is getting it back to baseball now. Unless they revolutionize the game the way that baseball has done over the years, the last year or so with their rule changes. Yeah, if you're looking for a day where basketball can be played the way it used to be played in the old days with the post up players and the mid range jumpers, you're gonna have to wait until something ginormous happens.
well, I mean, the physicality too is just different. I mean, it just really. I mean, everyone's freaking out about Draymond, but Draymond is, he's trying to punk guys that don't want any type of. I mean, he wouldn't do that to Charles Oakley or Anthony Mason or Karl Malone or any of those. Barkley, not happening, not in a million years. He wouldn't. I guarantee. And if he did, you get his clock cleaned easy.
Yeah,
It'd be done.
just like everybody else then back in those days that tried to do that. I mean, ask Kermit Washington or Rudy Tomjanovich.
Yeah,
He pushed a little bit too hard, but yeah, let's go back into baseball really quick. Then I did this
my
one for
bad.
you. It's all right. It's all right. I did this one for you, Harry. The Yankees roster. So you got DJ LeMahieu leading off. And these you could consider these penciled in guys, right? Because
I didn't
this,
realize. Wait, DJ's 35 years old already?
yeah, yeah,
Wow, I didn't realize he got that old that quick.
yeah. Anthony Rizzo also 34 and a half years old.
Yeah, I
So
knew
there,
Rizzo was up there.
Stanton is 34. So this is it's getting to that point where this is an older team. And the ironic part, Harry, is Brian Cashman for the last few years has been hoarding these prospects. As you can see, the only prospect I see, I see Oswald Peraza and Osvaldo Cabrera, but they're on the bench. Luckily, they can play anywhere and be utility players, like in the mode of Ben Zobrist and things of that nature. But all these prospects, there's what year two, maybe year three, of them being called up, and Peraz and Cabrera are not they're not part of your starting lineup. And the one guy who is part of your starting lineup, Anthony Volpe, um, what what kind of season do we project him to have in year number two? And for a lot of the good things that he did last year, there was a lot of holes in his game. Then there's going to be some growing pains. So people who thought
Right.
that you had the second coming of Derek Jeter, first of all, they got to stop with that comparison. Leave the kid alone. He's going to have to go through these growing pains. And you got Austin Wells, who's been kind of waiting. I've been hearing about Austin Wilson's forever and a day now. He's already 25 years old as a catcher, which it's not right or wrong, but compared to other catchers in the league, like, oh, I don't know, Adley Rutschman, which is a question that I see that you and Joe wanted to talk about today, catchers. So we'll get to it in a bit, but we got Adley Rutschman and guys like Gabriel Moreno who are in their early 20s. Austin Wells already in his mid 20s, and he's been a prospect since who knows when. So it's kind of ironic. This is an older team, despite the fact that Cashman has been hoarding prospects. And again, my point about the Houston Astros was, let's say 2017 never happened. You still got 2018. They competed hard in 2018. In 2019, they almost won the World Series and they just couldn't win a road game against the Washington Nationals, which that's another Cinderella story in itself. In 2020, what they do, I forgot. The Dodgers won, but the Astros defeated my White Sox in the first round of the playoffs from what I remember. No, that was 2021. Anyway, I'm getting my years mixed up, but yeah, they won in what year did they win? 22, was it? Yeah, because I think the Braves won in 21. Anyway, I'm asking the wrong guy, aren't I? Sorry about that.
That's
But
okay.
but they're competing, and the reason that they keep advancing to the World Series is and the Yankees are not. I would suggest is whoever's running the show in the front office for the Houston Astros, they're not afraid to make these big time trade deadline deals that will put them over the top. As a wrestling fan, Harry, you would appreciate that sometimes these teams they just need a little bit of a push to get them over the top, and that is the difference between teams that win championships and teams who lose in the American League Championship Series like the Yankees do every year.
Houston won 2017 and 2022.
Okay, so I think the Braves won in 21 then, and then in 23 was oh, Harry, this is pathetic. I'm getting too old for this crap. Who the hell
Uh,
won it last year?
um,
We just went. Oh, the Rangers, the Texas Rangers.
the Texas Rangers, right?
Sorry, I am so sorry about that. Yeah, so
Oh, it's okay.
yeah. So in that regard, I was gonna say, and I lost my train of thought. This is terrible. I'm the worst. But no, I mean that's the difference. They hoard these prospects and then they don't utilize them. They don't use them properly. Why? Because you got Giancarlo Stanton who's in the way. They just traded for Alex Verdugo. They still don't know what they have in Gleyber Torres. Meanwhile, you're just wasting Aaron Judge's prime, and Juan Soto should help a lot. But this is a very top heavy team, man. It's Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, and then everybody else. That's the type of nonsense you saw with the Anaheim Angels over the years with Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout.
I've heard that from so many different places. Like since the Soto trade, it's unreal. Like the exact word for word, it's top heavy. It's those two and everyone else. And it's somewhat true. I mean, Stanton's a shell of himself. I don't know if he'll ever be what he's really supposed to be, especially at 34. I'm sure we regret that trade to some degree. I mean, you don't know, what Volpe's going to be. Wells is 25. You're right. Have we hit the ceiling with him? Is he going to get any better? I mean, Torres is supposed to be the next coming of everything.
No,
I
no.
remember all the talk about Torres. At least around up here, that's all we talked about was Torres. And then he was supposed to play shortstop, and then we didn't
Hey,
know, and
hey,
then the
listen, man.
second.
When he was with the Cubs, he was going to be the second coming of something. I don't know what it was, but he was the second coming of something. Like he was so hyped when he was here in Chicago, and the fact that we had to trade him away to get Aroldis Chapman, it was kind of bittersweet because we needed a reliever, but did we really need one at the expense of Gleyber Torres? And at the end, Cubs won the World Series, and the Yankees haven't won one since 2009. So, and they don't even know what they have in Gleyber Torres, and all the other prospects that the Cubs traded away to the Yankees for Aroldis Chapman, nowhere to be found. They're not with the Yankees anymore. I don't think Billy McKinney's playing with them anymore. And the other two prospects are, I don't even think they're playing baseball, Major League Baseball anymore of any sort. Or they're, I don't think they're part of any farm system. So it was really, it ended up being Aroldis Chapman for Gleyber Torres straight up.
But I mean, trades are like that, right? It's always
Yeah,
a
exactly.
gamble.
Yeah.
It's always a gamble. You don't know
Yeah.
what's going to come of what.
No,
You know,
that's true. That's true. I mean, but that just kind of magnifies some of the shortcomings of Brian Cashman and company that they did get a prize. Like you said, everybody talked about him in Chicago and in New York, apparently. And it's what year? I don't even know what the hell year this is for him. What year 5, year 6? And they don't know what they have in him still. Now, projections say 25 home runs, 13 stolen bases. I can probably name a couple of Yankee fans who think that they'll take the what do they call it? The under on those projections you see there in front of you.
I can see that.
So, I mean, this is respectable. 271 batting average projection, 342 on base percentage projection, 455 slugging percent. Those are respectable numbers. But can he actually get to those numbers? And that's the question. If he were, the Yankees would be in much better shape than they are right now. We wouldn't be so ho hum about them right now. And the thing that doesn't help matters, Terry, is that they're in a very tough division. They can't afford to mess around like this.
I
But
don't
they
know.
do, but they do, and it's so inexplicable. And you talked about the pitching. Well, here's our pitching staff right here, in all its glory. On paper, it looks good,
Eh,
but it's on paper.
on paper, right?
You mentioned
Yeah.
Marcus Stroman as a kid. He's 32. He's almost 33 years old, Marcus Stroman. So, the years kind of just whizzed by him when he was uh,
I
uh,
call I call everybody kid. Anyone younger than me, I call a kid. So I gotta be careful with that.
that's true. That's true.
So I didn't mean to say it in that. I just say the word kid as like a slang,
Oh, okay.
but he also acts like a kid a lot of the times too. Like
Also true. Yeah.
he throws temper tantrums. Like I mean, I want who was it? I don't know if I was talking to you, if it was someone else, but I don't know. Maybe it was my friend Martin Brown on the Sports Witness page, but somewhere it came up. It was about the demand that Snell wanted from the Yankee, like the pitcher Snell. I don't remember his first name, but
Blake.
yeah, Blake Snell. I guess he wanted a ridiculous contract that was beyond like believe like, and he's just an average, right? He's like what, like
Nah, he's your reigning Cy Young winner, two-time Cy Young Award winner. But he gives up a lot of walks. But he also strikes out a lot of guys. But I will say that his year last year was more fluky than. But he's still a really good pitcher. I just don't think he should have won Cy Young last year. But the reason he can command that type of dollar amount is because he has proven to be durable, be really good at his job. And again, he's a two-time Cy Young winner.
well,
Would you give him that money though? It's a lot of money to give
well,
to a
that's
pitcher.
exactly what. So I've been told by numerous Yankee fans who followed closer than I did that that's why they went. That's why they feel Cashman went the Stroman route.
Yeah,
That they wanted
Moneyball.
to,
Yeah,
yeah, they wanted to avoid overspending. Because here's the deal: and a lot of us want Cashman out anyways. So, we just feel it's time for a change. But besides that point, besides the point of needing a change and that maybe Cashman getting too old, either way, Cashman loses in this situation.
Mm.
If Snell goes on to do something better, right? And Stroman's a disaster, Cashman's an idiot for not signing, Snell.
Yeah.
And then if it goes the other way around, if you say you signed Snell and Snell, bombed, then what? So either way,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's a tough spot for any GM at
But
that
but,
point,
but
let alone Cashman,
that's yeah, but
especially
that's
for the
when
evil empire.
no, of
We,
course,
we
yeah.
are the evil empire. We are we're the Patriots, you know what I mean, of baseball. I
But
mean,
but that's the thing. You gotta just sometimes you gotta make these big boy decisions and you gotta live with them. I mean, and not to say that he doesn't. I mean, he's been at this job for like what 20, 30 plus years already. That's
yeah.
in professional sports, that's crazy.
I
That's
remember when he was the
insane.
I remember when he was the prodigy. I mean, I remember when he
Yeah.
was like, it's I'm getting old. Shit. Excuse my language, but wow, it's crazy. It's just it's I still have my New York Yankees, World Series 1996 hat up here somewhere. Like I
Yeah.
think I've never worn it. It's just still
Well,
sitting.
you mentioned, I last time I played it was with Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor and all these guys, and I remember my first trade I did in this keeper league. We call it the Mardi Gras Madness Keeper League. My first draft pick was Jason Giambi, and I go, oh, Jason Giambi, okay,
Wow.
40, 35 home runs a year, 100 RBI, powerful Yankee. This is gonna be a good year. And then because I had some, I felt like I could do anything I wanted. I was a hot shot, late teenager, early 20-year-old playing with a bunch of grown men. Like, oh man, I got this game. This game, I proved myself that I could do this. And I've only had the internet for a couple of years. Yeah, my family was like some of the last people to get internet access in this country. But I felt like I was unstoppable, Harry. I felt like I was impermeable. And I go, you know what? It's time to treat myself. And as you know, I'm both a Cubs and White Sox fan. So I made a trade with this guy uh, who had both a good combination of Cubs and White Sox players. Like, give me all your Cubs and White Sox player. We'll do a five for five deal, and I'll trade away my guy Jason Giambi. Let me get Sammy Sosa, Kerry Wood, Paul Konerko, and oh man, I'm trying to remember who else was in this deal, but it was just a
AJ
disgusting.
Przinsky.
No, hell no. But it might as well have been.
I'm kidding.
Might as well have been for sure. But yeah, it was this ridiculous, which is why I preach against homer picks, this attachment to your favorite players on your favorite teams. I preach against that so hard. Like, don't do it. It's not worth it. It just brings more negative energy to your fantasy team than positivity. And I learned the hard way. I was too blind to see. My Cubs thumb did not let me see that Kerry Wood had command issues. My Cubs thumb did not let me see that Sammy Sosa struck out too much in a league that uh, penalizes heavy for hitter strikeouts. My White Sox fandom did not let me see that Paul Konerko is very inconsistent as a hitter. One of the greatest White Sox players of all times. But I mean, when he was trending, when he was on fire, I mean, he was hitting everything in sight. But when he would go on slumps, man, oh my God, it was like the worst thing that could happen to you. So I learned the hard way, and so yeah, and that was, but my point of bringing that up is that feels like it was yesterday, not 20 years ago. That felt like it was just a couple days ago,
I know.
and it's just like that. It just goes by. But anyway, let's go on to We'll finish with the Yankee bullpen here, which they always do a really good job of supplying bullpen arms, and I see that they are getting all the Dodgers relievers, ex-Dodger relievers they can get. Victor Gonzalez, Caleb Ferguson, they just acquired recently, and Tommy Conley, who also was playing for the Dodgers for a bit, although I think he was more of a reclamation project for them because he was coming back from a real serious injury. I forgot which one. I think it might have been Tommy John surgery. And in a previous podcast episode at the beginning of the year, Harry, I even made a case that hey, if anybody is going to go after a guy like David Bednar of the Pittsburgh Pirates, let's say that he becomes available because the Pirates are such a mess. They're not keeping anybody. They're not re-signing anybody. David Bednar, you would think, would be a prime trade candidate, and you would think the Yankees in a tough division and win now mode would absolutely do wonderful service to themselves by acquiring a guy like David Bednar. Clay Holmes can go back to the eighth or seventh inning and be the first man out of the bullpen to put out fires, and then just give it to David Bednar in the ninth inning, and that's all she wrote. But they're not going to do that because Brian Cashman has proven in the last couple of years that he doesn't do those trades. And it's been costing him left and right. But anyway, there's your Yankees. Did that one for you. We weren't going to talk about any real major league teams because this is a fake sport, fake podcast about fake athleticism. But I decided to bring up the Yankees just for you, man. I hope you enjoy that little breakdown of the New York Yankees this
I
upcoming
do. Thank
season.
you.
So,
Appreciate it.
do you feel any better? Do you feel any worse? Do you feel about the same?
I feel it's the same. I kind
Yeah,
of know I
okay.
get myself into my Yankees, but no, I mean, I learned some more. I learned some more stuff, that hearing it from a different perspective, from a objective perspective, because I really feel that when you do say something, you don't necessarily do it just from like a hatred or from like an agenda. You say it from the heart. So, hearing your perspective of my team really made me kind of lower lower my expectations and kind of just hope for the best, where, some would just kind of jump on the whole soda thing because, some people would do that. Not that I was doing that, but where I may have maybe out of nowhere, analysis kind of rewired me, I guess you could say.
Oh, that's good to hear. I mean, I try not to be biased. I mean, I'm a sports fan, so there's gonna be some biases. There's always gonna be Yankee hatred because, like you just said, they're the evil empire. I was born and raised to hate the Yankees, even though I was this close to becoming a Yankee fan. Because you can't learn about the history of the baseball without learning about the New York Yankees and their players like Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. I grew up reading about all those guys, and I fell in love with all those guys. But I decided to be the most hated, the most obnoxious person in Chicago by rooting for both the Cubs and the White Sox because I thought rooting for the Chicago AL team was better than rooting for the New York Yankees as my AL team. So, but the only concern at this point, if it makes you feel any better, all the other ALS teams, ALS East teams have concerns of their own. But I could see the Red Sox win the division, but I could also see the Red Sox just plummet to the depths of hell, but they might surprise people. I mean, they surprised people by going 70 and 84 last year. I could see them maybe get up to 85, 86 wins and maybe fight for that last playoff spot. Blue Jays have issues. The Rays have issues. The only team that looks pretty invincible right now, especially after they have acquired Corbin Burns recently, are the Baltimore Orioles. And guess what? You thought that they were done with their youth move, and they got a bunch of players ready to go. And if they're not ready to go for this Orioles team, they are. They just show that they're willing to trade all those guys if it means that they can get some help. Which, again, goes back to Brian Cashman and his. I hate to use the word cowardly, but it does come out cowardly when all the other teams that are competing for championships are going balls to the wall acquiring talent to win those championships.
That's the kid from Milwaukee, right?
Corbin Burns, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, let's go and have some fun here. You had inherited a team, a very interesting team. It looks like you get to keep players for 3 years, and then everybody goes back into the draft pool. It sounds like,
Right.
but the real wrinkle in this is that you get to keep your minor leaguers forever as long as they don't pass by a certain threshold. I think it was 300 at bats or plate appearances. I forgot which one, but 300. Let's call them at bats and 100 innings pitch, I believe, for the pitchers. Either way, I looked at your roster and it is loaded with a bunch of guys that I absolutely adore from a minor league perspective. But let's start here. You said that you and your friend Joe had questions about thoughts about catchers. Um,
Can I say something what I learned today about catchers?
yeah, sure, go
So
ahead.
I was listening to the Fantasy Pros podcast because I decided to listen to something, right? So trying to
Yeah.
prepare myself. So I knew, so I'd have something to know while coming into tonight's podcast. And according to what's our guy's name there?
It,
ATC,
Ariel Cohen. Yeah.
Ariel Cohen and the other guys on the show, that catchers should never be overvalued. That you can literally, unless it's a two catcher league,
Yeah.
you could literally just wait till, lower in the draft, don't go crazy for a catcher because it's not really what you're really looking for,
Right.
So I learned that very quickly, which makes sense. I mean, that seems kind of, it's kind of like with a tight end almost. I mean, okay, you could go for Kelce if you want to, but you're gambling that if Kelsey's going to stay healthy, like, well, you could really have a different spot, unless the league is tight end premium.
Hmm.
But even then, I just want a tight end premium league with like Conklin from the Jets and like Higby from the Rams in there. So it wasn't terrible. We got lucky, I guess, but I concentrate in a different direction, even though it was a tight end premium. But
Yeah, so it matters from year to year, right? Because this was the year in fantasy football where it was more than okay. If it was a novelty in years before, I believe 2023 was the first season where I heard a lot of the so-called experts say, "Don't hesitate, just get Travis Kelce. You'll thank us later. Just get Travis Kelce in the first round," which is
Kelsey went first overall in my draft,
that's
12
crazy.
team draft. My
I,
my buddy Justin Taylor took him first.
I think he went sixth or eighth, I forget, but he
So
went
I
pretty
took
early.
Jefferson second.
Oh,
And,
that's a good
and
one.
yeah, I well, it still ended up being the worst team in the league. It was just I
Oh,
had the worst
oops.
injuries. It was terrible. You would
Yeah.
think so I won with Rashad White, James Conner,
Hmm.
Josh Allen, and in a couple other, in two other leagues. But in my own league, I was like three and whatever, you know what I mean, or four and whatever. I ended up winning out in the playoffs, like in the loser bracket, become like sixth place, which is nothing. But in the regular season, I was the worst team, and I had the same players. But Jefferson. Jefferson got hurt.
Hmm.
And then again, it's always points against, right? It doesn't matter. You can do what you want. It's points against, right? But anyway, so Justin Taylor went Kelsey, I went Jefferson, and then Rich Hopkins, excuse me, who is the reason why I'm in these leagues with the one I won and now this fantasy draft, because he's the one that got me in. He took the kid in Cincinnati.
Jamar Chase. That's my
Jamar
guy.
Chase. Right. So
That's my
it's
guy
just
right there.
crazy how it all unfolded from there. So, and then of
But
course the guy who won the league got Tyreek Hill at the sixth pick,
yeah,
you
that's about right.
know? So, and he took off. He just took off, Hill went nuts and everything else. So,
But the point was I was trying to make was that because in years past I was getting away with just waiting till the 10th, 11th, 12th tight end and just go from there. There were years where I think there was a pocket of a couple of seasons where I was getting Greg Olsen very late in the draft because everybody they didn't value Greg Olsen the way I value him.
right.
And he was the 10th or 11th tight end. And like, "Oh, I'll just wait until Greg Olsen is the last tight end available, the best tight end available. And once he becomes the best tight end available, Felipe is going to pounce on him. And that ended up being the smart thing to do for many years for me. And then somewhere along the line, man, tight end just got super weak. And that's why you saw Travis Kelce go number one overall. And if you waited like me, like my idiot ass, waited too long for a tight end, you were screwed. But at the same time, I always have the confidence that I am going to find a tight end. I'm always going to find the players that I want. And I didn't get the good tight ends in the draft, but I got all the running backs that I wanted. I got the wide receivers that were as good as I can get, all things considered. But tight end, I was gonna wait. And unfortunately, David Njoku didn't work out, and I did go through a revolving door of tight ends. But
Wait, you just stole my thunder. And Joko did work out. You just had to wait for him because he
not
worked
for
out in the end.
I cut him too, sir, but I still went through that revolving
Oh,
door.
you can't cut him that early, bro. I
No,
lived off that guy.
I've been burned too many times by believing in Njoku for so many years, and he never plays out. And of course,
I
I cut him, and that's when he starts. I
No,
guess he starts
started going
bursting.
off. He started going off in two different leagues for me, and that's where I ended up being, in the two smaller leagues, not the bigger one. But the other guy that was amazing that I picked up that took care of me when Mark Andrews went down was the kid Likely in Baltimore.
Well, here's my guy. Now listen to this. So I went through a revolving door of tight ends. I don't even remember. I think Dawson Knox was one of them.
Yep.
Noah Fant might have been one because I've always liked Noah Fant, but man, he lets me down every single year. Like he has the athleticism to be a really good tight end. I just don't know why it doesn't click for him. So it's a revolving door. Like I think I had Dalton Kincaid and maybe Dalton Schultz. I forget. Just one at tight end after another. It's not working for me. And then some guy decided that he was gonna drop Sam Laporta.
What?
And that's a guy I really wanted in the draft, but for some reason I wasn't able to get him. Sam Laporta gets dropped. I'm like, all right, that's it. This is it. This is my patience paying off. So the strategy, although weird, it was a weird way to me to get Sam Laporta. It still worked out because I ended up getting Sam Laporta, and I was able to snatch away that last playoff spot because Sam Laporta went crazy in those last couple of weeks or so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Laporta's nasty, man.
So why are we talking about tight ends? Because like your guy Joe, if he feels like catchers are a rare fantasy breed, kind of like tight ends in football. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It just depends on the year. There was one year where I was going with my same old strategy. Just wait around for catchers. Wait around for catchers. I always find catchers, and if not, revolving door. And this is in a two catcher league. So my two catchers league, and I think was in 2021 or 2022. I ended up drafting both Gary Sanchez and Sean Murphy, and I couldn't be happier. By the end of the year, I was miserable, just absolutely miserable. And I swear to God, I would never do that again. But, Gary Sanchez and Sean Murphy, they were top in the back end of the top 12 of my catcher rankings. And I figured, well, as long as I get those two, I should be good. And it turned out, no, it's not good at all. So the following year, I drafted catchers early, both of my catchers early. I both got Wilson Contreras and Yasmani Grandal, and Contreras did okay. Grandal did bad for the White Sox. So yeah, that people were making fun of me. Oh, so the guy who preaches about not getting any players from his own favorite teams got the two catchers from Chicago. What a hypocrite. But you know what? I got them at value. I didn't reach for them. Like when Contreras was the best catcher available, I pounced on him. And same thing with Yasmani Grandal. When he was the best catcher available, I pounced on him. And that way I wouldn't have to dealing with bad catchers for the majority of the year. Like I said, Contreras worked out. Yasmani Grandal didn't. Last year, Contreras was my keeper from the previous year. And I don't remember exactly what my second catcher was. But here's another rule that I broke with myself, Harry. I always tell people do not fall in love with catching prospects because they will let you down. But what I found out, and this is why you got to always be dynamic about your outlook on these things. And then at the start of the show, what I say, you got to be able to keep an eye on those trends and those patterns. If you can, figure out what the patterns are forming, that's half the battle. And the pattern I noticed was a lot of these young catchers, they are very promising. They are super promising. And I'm going to keep an eye on these guys. So I went ahead and protected Andy Rodriguez on my minor league slot. I went after Ivan Herrera. I found out that this guy named Yanier Diaz for the Houston Nationals is pretty damn good. I kept an eye on Bo Naylor from the Cleveland Guardians. And sure enough, in my two catcher league, I used a revolving door. So Contreras was number one guy, but I used a revolving door for all the other ones, and I used nothing but prospect catchers, and they were the ones who got me to the finish line en route to a championship.
Wow.
So it depends on the year because like I said, the year where I got Sanchez and Murphy, awful. Sanchez ended up being terrible, but Sean Murphy, all he was able to bounce back the following year, got traded to Atlanta Braves, and he's now become someone that you need to draft as a catcher. Like that, he's a good catcher, good hitting catcher. But we're in an era of right now, Harry. I think we're in an era where the catching position has not been as deep as it has been in a long time. Like in the years past, I would have agreed with you. Yeah, try to get the catcher at a premium, top three, top five. Anything below that, you are just playing with fire. This year, however, as I go and share my screen from Fantasy Pros, I share the average strap position. If I could figure out how to share my screen, I already forgot how to do it. There you go. And let me make this a little bit bigger. Let's go to 150. There you go. Here's a catcher. So Adley Rutschman is the guy to get, right? He's your Travis Kelce. That's Travis Kelce in baseball uniform. Uh, Young guy, just the future of baseball. He's playing for the Baltimore Orioles, who they look like they're going to be the favorites. Oops, wrong screen. I was looking at Brooks Lee earlier today. Uh, what is this? What was I talking about? Oh, the Orioles look like they're going to be the present and the future of Major League Baseball. And Rushman is basically not just the Travis Kelce, but he's basically the Pat Mahomes of the catching position as well.
Wow.
Because,
Okay.
yeah, right. But unfortunately for him, catchers are also like offensive linemen. They wear down rather, or just like any tight end, they wear down easy, right? Because besides catching the ball, they also got to block, and they blocked some bigums, right? They blocked some big mofo's. And Adley Rushman and all the catchers, they have a really tough task, as you know, Harry. I mean, you haven't paid attention in a while, but I think you have a good idea that catching is probably the toughest position in all of baseball. Would you agree
I
with that sentiment?
well, I was a catcher. I mean, I didn't play, Major League Baseball, but I played catcher my entire life growing up, till
There you go.
I moved out of the suburbs, went to the city and just played basketball the entire time. But yeah, from like 7 years old till 13-ish, 14, I was the catcher. I mean, I loved it. It was one of the greatest times of my life. So, and it was abusive then. So I got run over a few. Well, they tried to run me over. I was the biggest guy in the league. One of them. So, but no, yes, there's a lot of abuse, and you're kneeling the entire time. Or like
Hmm.
well, not kneeling. What is that? Like, you're sitting, like
Well,
squatting,
crouch,
squatting,
crouch,
crouching,
crouch.
squatting.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes a lot on your knees and stuff and your body. So
So yeah, so that's the one concern is that Adley Rutschman looks to be this promising backstop, right? And for good reason. Like he clearly of head and shoulders the best catcher in all of baseball. But he's already 26 years old. He's only had 2 seasons. Like it took him this long to get up to the major leagues.
wow.
And not because he did anything wrong. It's just a tougher position to master. And the Orioles were being cheap asses too, probably. You know how they are. But now they're
Yeah.
under new management, so it's all good. But Adley Rutschman probably the best hitting catcher at the moment, and his arrow's pointing up. Now, if you believe that that is going to be the case, that it's going to be Adley Rutschman for the next 2 or 3 years, by all means, go get him. He's going somewhere in the third or fourth round. He's in the top 40 of all players available in ADP. Let me see if I can go back to overall. Because when I was looking the other day, when you asked me that question, I looked it up and he was going as the 40th best player. And now he moved up a spot. He's number 39 now. So people are buying into Adley Rutschman as a player that you need to build around as one of your core players coming into the 2024 season. So the thing you got to ask yourself is he better than any of these players? Now you might have some idea, but you probably don't have all the idea in front of you because you've been away from the game too much. But it really, if you and Joe decide that Bo Bichette, Pablo Lopez, Ellie De La Cruz, Jose Altuve, that isn't that your favorite second baseman of all time, Jose
You're
Altuve?
a funny guy there. You're funny.
Ha
I know who
ha!
that jerk is.
He just signed an extension. That's how big of a jerk he is. He
Yeah, and
asked
I
for.
don't and I saw that. I saw that on Baseball Life, and to be honest, I think that's a big mistake. He's getting paid for past play. He's not going to live up to that. I mean, listen, if he does, kudos to him, and I'll admit I'm wrong, but come on, like what player has lived up to that? Who has lived up to those type of, I mean, how about Robinson Cano? Robbie Cano, don't you know? He didn't live up to his contract. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like, no, Houston made a mistake. Houston did it because of the prestige of the
hmm
man, of him being like sort of the face of the organization for so long.
No, I mean that's exactly what it is. That's part of it. Just like any job, you want to see the people who have been working there the longest, get rewarded for their hard work. Because if you don't, then why are you here? You're working for the wrong company. And
Right.
that's just the juxtaposition I like to use.
Then
I know it's not the
then
same.
do you know what though? Then bump up the amount of money and do less years. You know what I mean?
Hey,
Like,
hire Jose Altuve's agent to represent you in your daily negotiations for contracts and
no, I'm just
salary and all
no,
that.
no, I'm saying for Houston's side of it, I'm
Oh,
saying
I
you want to
see.
reward the player, but I just think 5 years is too. What is he, 34?
I forget, but he's getting up there in age. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so I mean,
he did not look to. He's he's shown that he's been broken down.
right, that's my point. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like you can't overpay. You got to learn. You got to learn from the mistakes of the past.
He'll be 34 years old in May.
Okay, so I'm close. All right. I mean,
No,
for
no,
someone who doesn't really
he's
follow, I follow enough to know. You know what I mean? Like,
no, and it's a good guess. It's an absolute great guess. Yeah. And I follow, and I thought he was 32, 33 years old, but 34, yeah, he's so the contract was for 5 years, right? So
yeah.
34, that
So
39.
39. So, all right. So maybe he plays decent enough for the first two. Third year is where you're going to see, obviously if he stays healthy. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? After that, he hits what, 36 going to 37. Then it's a gamble, and you don't know what you're going to get. It's just, you know what I compare it to? I compare it to Pedro going to the Mets.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Pedro was a 4-year deal. We all knew we're only going to get 2 years out of him. They got a year and a half of lights out. Don't get me wrong. Pedro was lights out.
No, but I think the Astros are a smart enough team. I mean, they're the ones who just, and you're seeing their influence all over Major League Baseball, right? Aside from the garbage stuff, the garbage
Right.
trucks
I
and the
understand.
the banging, they're I mean, they're a statistically analytically driven franchise. They are technology driven franchise. They're a biomedical led franchise. They of all teams know the risks of paying a 34-year-old this much money for a guy who only played 90 games last year, and he's looked pretty broken down in the
What's his
previous.
contract again?
I thought it was 5 years, $125 million.
That's what I thought it was. Yes.
I thought that's what it was. Uh,
I
I,
guess I guess I'm wrong to compare it to Cano's big contract because Cano's was a lot bigger. I believe, right? Wasn't it 10-year,
Oh, it was ridiculous. Yeah, that was one of the bigger
280,
contracts.
280, 10-year 280 or 10-year 320?
It might have gone to 300 even because I
Yeah,
remember
something like that. Right.
Jay Z was his representative, and
Right. So maybe I'm a little off by comparing the two, but you know, I mean, I'm not off completely, but I don't know. I understand you want to pay, like but I would have done high if it was me and I could pull it off and and have the analytics in front of me. I would have gave him 3 years, maybe 30 million or 35 million. I don't know. You know what I mean?
and
Like,
so yeah, so he played in 90 games last year. He missed 20 games in 2022, 20 games in 2021. Let's call it about 10 games in the shortened season of 2020. He missed about 40 games in 2019. He missed about 30 games or thereabouts in 2018. And durable years happened around 2013 and 2018 as the Astros were, I'm sorry, 2013 to 2017 as the Astros were making their ascent into baseball nadir here. So after they won that first World Series, and for you, Harry, quote unquote, won that first World Series, he started taking more breaks and his body started to break down a little bit more. So and so that all happened. You saw the dip in games played at about hit the age 28 season. He is a smaller guy. If you believe in that stuff, that smaller guys are more fragile or that he's going to get pushed around more in physical confrontations, then that is a red flag. But the Astros, they figured this is our franchise player for life. We don't want him going anywhere else. We're going to turn him into Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina roll into one. And that, and you know what that is, Harry? That's the human element of things. That's the human element people keep telling me I'm lacking. That's what I see out of this deal. That's the human element of a franchise who is as faceless as they can get. Remember, this is a franchise that don't give a damn. If it's not numbers driven, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. They went ahead and gave this guy a contract of goodwill. So maybe there is some hope for all of us, isn't there? Maybe. But the point of the Adley Rutschman thing is, if you don't believe any of these players are better than Adley Rutschman, then by all means, get Adley Rutschman. Know that you're taking a substantial, somewhat of a risk, right? Because it's still a catcher, but it's a catcher that can hit, oh, I don't know, 25, maybe 30 home runs. He was in the home run contest and he was able to display power that I didn't even know he had. Like I thought he was going to be eliminated after one round. He actually held his own in the home run hitting contest. And where were they playing? In Colorado, was it? Or where the hell did they play? Anyway, he held his own. And last thing before I move on to the next thing, yeah, and the projections are a little he had 20 home runs last year, Harry. Most of the projection systems that are available at Fangraphs have him hitting less than 20 home runs. So that's up to you and Joe, because I leave this up to you guys. If you think that 18, 19 home runs in the second and third round is good enough because you have that position locked up, then by all means. Now, if you want to do what Felipe does, is I look at Adley Rutschman and I go, I understand he might be better than these other players, right? He might be, but it's not something I want to find out for myself because, oops, I went to the wrong guy. I'm looking for catchers. I'm going back to the ADP average draft position for catchers. Adley Rutschman is going to number one, but I'm also comfortable getting Will Smith, getting jiggy with it, William Contreras, Wilson Contreras' brother, who's playing in Milwaukee, and will who I've seen lead off a lot of times, and he plays a lot of designated hitter. So he's going to be kept fresh, right, Kerry?
Mhm.
That's what we just talked about the breakdown. There's your guy, JT Real Muto, one of the better catchers pound for pound of the last 3 or 4 years, but he's starting to break down. He's getting up there in his mid 30s. He's not looking fresh. But you know what he does still to this day? Steal a lot of bases for a catcher. He's getting double digit steals to this day, which is
Wow.
just mind boggling. And with the new rules that allows for more stolen bases, it's insane. That's why Ariel is right. You should wait on catcher this year because catcher is deep. There's my guy Yenner Diaz who helped me win a championship.
He,
The reason, go ahead. I'm sorry.
they had a comparison of two catchers. One of the Contrerases, and then there was another one right under him. I can't remember who he was. Can you scroll down a little bit? Maybe I can find his name.
Gabriel
Um,
Moreno,
maybe it was Gabriel Moreno. I
or
think so. Him
this else Logan
or maybe it
O'Hop.
was Maybe it was Bo Naylor.
Okay.
But they said that, you know, if you wanted to try and go Contreras, you could, but just understand that you're not too far off if you go take, say, Naylor from Cleveland or
Mm,
or Moreno or something like that. I'd have to re-listen to it, but they basically said that you wouldn't be too far off. That it's not the end of the world if you miss on Contreras and you pick up someone a little bit lower. It's not the end of the world per se. So
yeah.
definitely to don't you don't have to go grab the best catcher available, because you see catchers come off the board.
And I'm
Like don't.
and I'm glad that he saw it that way because I thought maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I don't value the Travis Kelce of catchers enough. Maybe there's something wrong with me. But I thought about this all day ever since you asked. Oh, the last couple of days ever since you asked me that question or you posed that question in that way, you know. And I thought, no, 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 no. I know in my heart that catcher is deeper than it's ever been before. I mean, I was just going to mention Yannier Diaz is the guy who helped me win the championship uh, for the Houston Astros. There's a reason why the Houston Astros keep even despite the fact that their minor league system looks to be depleted because of all those trades that they've tried to do to win championships over the years, they still find guys like Yannier Diaz who is able to be called up and get put in a position to succeed and get results for the team. And now look, he's top five catcher. Who would have thought it? Yannier Diaz, 25-year-old catcher who also plays first base. So he, again, they're trying to preserve these bodies. Salvador Perez, I know you know that guy.
I do. I've
Yeah,
heard of them.
yeah, and his catching days are about to be over, but they're gonna try to put him at first base and designated hitter. And again, because, and I think it was Ariel or somebody else who mentioned that as well, that it might not be a bad idea to go after a guy like Salvador Perez because he will get the playing time because they want his bat to be there every single day, not necessarily a catcher, but somewhere in that lineup, his bat is gonna be playing. And
So how does that work? Let me interrupt you, but say you have him at DH one day rather than
Mhm.
catcher. I can't play him at catcher. I got to play him at DH.
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
have a
no,
DH
no.
spot, right?
No, 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 no. It doesn't matter as long as they qualify. It doesn't matter,
Perfect.
and it's not even DH. It's I think you might have a utility spot, which
That's what I
that
meant. Sorry, that's what I
that's
meant.
that's your wild card. Consider that you're like your Joker's wild position.
Right, I
You can
remember
put
that.
okay, so you can put anybody there. For those who don't know, you can put anybody in the utility spot, and Salvador Perez might be good enough to be put in that utility spot. I wouldn't do it, but if injuries happen and he's the last guy that you have available, by all means, put him in there. Who
No, but
cares? Go ahead.
say he's my catcher, right? Or one of my catchers, and he's not playing catcher that night, but the spot I have open is catcher. I can still put him in the catcher spot,
Yeah,
even though he's not playing catcher because he has, the particular
eligibility.
eligibility. Okay, all right,
Yeah, as long as he's eligible a catcher, which he is, he should be. You could put it Salvador Perez in your in your catching position for
gotcha.
sure. Yeah, no,
Okay,
man, that's the beauty about fantasy baseball. It's your fantasy, right?
no, it's
uh,
good. It was like that years ago. I just didn't know if it changed or not.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Because like you said, lots of things have changed, and that's one thing for sure. Now it just depends. Like, if anything, you might be looking to see if Salvador Perez will gain a new position. Will he qualify? I don't know if what do you guys use for outfield? Is it three out? No, you guys use five outfielders, right? You don't
I'll
split them.
tell you right now. I think.
Yeah, because in my leagues we split them in three because that's the only way I play left field, center field, right field. But and the most common way for outfields to be played is just the OF position, only fans position. No, I'm joking. Outfield position. Just
So this
go
this
ahead.
is the starting lineup is this a catcher, first baseman, second baseman, third baseman, shortstop, CI.
Corner
don't know.
infielder.
Okay, corner infielder, then middle infielder,
Hmm.
then one, two, three, four, five outfielders,
Yep, yep. Okay,
and
so
then and then two utility players.
oh wow. Okay, deep, deep, deep. And it's a 14 team league, so that's
Right,
you're
it's
gonna
deep.
you're gonna yeah you're gonna learn some things this year. Like moving on, Cal Raleigh. And the guy hit. I believe I just saw that he had 30 home runs. I didn't know that about him. I wasn't interested in him, but Cal Raleigh hit 30 home runs last year.
Really?
Yeah, but he also struck out about 28% of the time. So
Oof.
I think your league punishes, but he also walks about 10% of the time too. So you take the good with the bad sometimes. 232 batting average, which comes with a 306 on base percentage, which for me, on base percentage is like the ultimate weapon, is the ultimate signifier if someone's going to be good at fantasy or not. And for me, 306 is just way too low. But for some other people, hey, those are 30 home runs, and you can't teach that. So it
What
depends
is
what you're
your
looking
okay?
for.
Okay, so now I come back at you. What is your gauge or your line for like on base percentage?
I like to at least have these guys at 330.
Okay,
Bare minimum 330. I see JT Realmuto got at 310. If anyone's going to be an exception, it'll be him, but I'm not targeting JT Realmuto as my catcher anyway. So I know Elias Diaz was a darling last year, but his on base percentage was 316. Of all the qualified hitters among catchers, I see Will Smith is 359, which is pretty damn good for any position player, let alone catcher. Let me see if I can drop this. Let me share this other. So let me show you what I see here. This is the Fangraphs leaderboard page. It's a website I like to use a lot. I love Fangraphs, as you know, or you may or may not know.
you mentioned a
Uh,
couple of times before we got on air. So
yeah, let's see. So, okay, start from the beginning. So, I guess the qualifying plate appearances is 500 plate appearances. So let's drop it down to 250. Let's get as many. Let's drop it down to 200. Get as many catches as possible, right? And you'll see a 330 on base percentage or close to it is Alejandro Kirk from the Toronto Blue Jays. And that's a guy who generates a lot of contact rate. He's a pudgy kind of guy. But for a guy who's pudgy, don't think of him as Bam Bam Bigelow, the wrestling guy, right?
right.
Except that he lacks power. But he
Okay.
makes a ridiculous amount of contact, which it could be soft contact or any contact by any means is good contact, right? As long as you're putting the ball in play, isn't that what matters, right?
Right. It's true.
Eh, yeah, right. So it could go either way. It could either be weak contact and you ground out easy, or it could be any type of contact and anything can happen. Just put the ball in play. For a guy like Alejandro Kirk, that 334 on base percentage, that's my minimum threshold. That'll play. Bo Naylor, 339. Yeah, 237 average. That's bad, but I'll take the 339 and the 470 slugging percentage. So you can see I salivate a little bit.
You're into on base percentage and slugging percentage over average.
Oh yeah.
If you had to give up one or the other, you'll bend on the average a bit because you'll be able to mm, figure that out somewhere else, you're saying.
Yeah, and you're not points league, so I mean, I forgot which fudge. I forgot what the correlation was between batting average and on base percentage was. Whether on base percentage is still better than batting average. The one thing that is for sure, Harry, is batting average is a lot harder to repeat and a lot harder to predict because Bo Naylor hits 237, but who's to say that he won't hit 280 next year? Because he definitely has that. I still believe that he has a hit profile to be a really good Major League Baseball hitter. But on base percentage, that is more of a repeatable skill than batting average.
Now,
Like
how come he only played 67 games?
he got called up really late, and
Okay.
the Guardians were babying him a little bit. They had three catchers on that team,
Is he going
so
to start this year?
he better. Like that's
Okay.
their prime catcher for the Guardians. They have no one else. Let's find out. Good question, by the way. Because I'm just like thinking, oh, I'm gonna get Bo Naylor if push comes to shove. If I have to get Bo Naylor, I'll get Bo Naylor. But let's
I-
find out where is Bo.
I'm just glad I'm not annoying you because I'm going to be
Oh no,
asking questions for forever.
the only bad thing about Bo Naylor is he's left-handed. I find that left-handed hitters are easily more neutralized than right-handed hitters. But it looks like if this is true, there is no platoon system for him. So there's Bo Naylor batting number 6 for your Cleveland Guardians. What is his projections? 14 home runs, 6
Well,
RBI.
so Joe is a Cleveland Guardian. We named our team Tribal Bombers. That's our team name. Well, because in football, so he's a Buffalo Bills fan, I'm a New York Jets fan. So we were Buffalo sauce, and it worked, and we won. You know,
Nice.
so now we try to keep the tradition going. So now we're Tribal Bombers. And I came with that on my own. He loved it. Like I just thought about it for a minute, and I thought about Major League Baseball, the movie, for some reason, because every time I think of the Indians,
It's a
you
great
know,
movie.
of course, I love it. Uh, I think of I think of that, and then of course, they play the Yankees, in the actual movie. So, worked out, and so I was like tribal, like Bronx Bombers, tribal Bombers, and it just worked out. So,
And my favorite thing about Bo Naylor is that he's playing with his brother Josh Naylor. I'm a sucker for that type of stuff.
oh wow,
So yeah. And Josh Naylor was a darling of mine last year. He helped me win a championship And the ESPN league I play with a bunch of other baseball life guys.
Is he only a DH?
Who Josh Nader should also qualify at first base. Last I checked.
Oh, okay, nice.
Last I checked. But you might want to double check your because your league I saw that they have a lot of customization going. I mean, if you have fan tracks, why not go full customization? But I believe it explains what the parameters are to qualify for the following season. I believe Josh Nader should qualify. So, but I would double check your league standards first. But yeah, Bone, and then the backup catcher is Austin Hedges, who is projected to hit $1.99 batting average. Now, I'm a guy who doesn't believe in batting average or doesn't take it too seriously, but $1.99 batting average is still putrid. I like to think that Bo Naylor is safely embedded into the starting catching position. The one good thing about Austin Hedges, though, as the backup catcher, he is a defensive wizard. So depending what the Guardians want to do with their catching situation, and they have a lot of young pitchers too, Henry. They have a lot of young pitchers too, Harry, not
All
Henry,
right.
Harry. So I mean, you put two and two together, right? If you're a young pitcher, do you want to have your catcher be this young guy who's still learning on the job, or you want the veteran who is notorious for being a defensive wizard out there in the backstop and a great manager of pitchers? You tell me if you're a
No,
pitcher.
you've seen it many times before. I've seen it. I've seen the Yankees do it. A
Yep.
pitcher would have a particular catcher, so it happens. I've seen it before.
There you go. 91 games last year. Here, I think you're safe if you want to target Josh Naylor at first base. So he played 91 games. He should qualify in most, I would say 90% of leagues, he should qualify at first base. So
Okay.
that answers your question there. So that's what was I talking about? Okay, so Bo Naylor, and then we get to my guy Gabriel Moreno, who you know what, Harry, I'm gonna let you in a little secret, right? You're in the circle, and you know what? Since you're here, I'm gonna let everybody else because they're gonna watch on YouTube. So you do what you want with this information, but I have it where I can customize the statistics I want to see on Fangraphs. And it's a pretty convoluted project, but if you have the patience for it, it might prove to be handy. And I did this little experiment because you did ask about catchers. And I put in Adley Rutschman and I added who's the other guy? Moreno. And I'm gonna add Bo Naylor and see what happens when I put all three of these guys in. Okay. I mean, we're talking about some of the
Well,
young.
you're gonna have to teach me this at some point. This is amazing.
Oh yeah, man. This is what I live for. This is my passion. This is my favorite thing to do it. And what I find, I'm kind of shocked that most people they have this at their disposal
I don't know
and
how to use it. I don't
and
know.
or have no interest. That's the worst part. When I was a kid growing up, you know how much I would have killed to have something like this in my life and not have to wait for tomorrow's newspapers to give me the statistics because not every sports section would give you the statistics that you were looking for.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just give you the bare minimum because that's all they can give you.
These
And
guys that I'm playing with have been playing fantasy baseball since it was on paper.
oh yeah, I've heard a lot about
They've been
that.
playing since the 80s. I mean, the commissioner's retired from what I hear. Like this is what he just does. Like it's like
Yeah,
he's the best commissioner I've ever been around. He's unreal.
yeah.
But even my buddy Hop, Rich Hopkins, he's been doing it since the 80s. I mean, he's one that kind of got me more serious into this. Like I always did my own fantasy football just to do it, keep up with my friends. My buddy Richard used to run the league. Then he had to, retire out of it because he had too much going on at work, and then I took it over. But as far as these other leagues I've got myself into, you know, Rich Hopkins got me into it, and then now I'm in these leagues with these big players, and
Hmm.
these guys are legit. I mean, they think I'm a ringer or something. When really I'm not. We just got lucky, but I did my homework. But my point is that like, there's no wiggle room in these leagues. I mean, these guys are all serious about. I've been playing forever, so
Yeah, because if you're gonna
thank.
if you're gonna do something, you're gonna participate in something. Why not go full tilt? Why not
No, absolutely. It's
use
just
every resource to your advantage? Go ahead.
just didn't know where to start again. That's why, I'm fortunate and blessed to have you as a friend that's willing to kind of get me back on track. Because
That's
how do you come back from 20 years and try to figure out, like, okay, I did find fantasy pros on my own. I mean,
yeah.
literally went through the podcast list. I'm like, this is the one. I don't know why, but this is the one that feels right. I got lucky on that, and it seemed to work out. The two episodes I've listened to so far. But at
Good.
first it was
Thank you.
like, it was if I was like reading, radio instructions. You know what I mean? Like how to install a radio. It just felt like
Yeah, yeah.
I was in Switzerland somewhere, and but then it started to come to, and then now with you talking about this, it's starting to make a little more sense.
But check this out, man. Since August 21st of last year, all the way through the end of the season. Remember, Adley Rutschman is the creme de la creme, right? I think he was the number one catcher last year too, in terms of where do you need to drafted him and come into 2023 drafts. So as you can see, he gets all the playing time. And in your league, I believe you do get points for at bats or plate appearance. I forgot which one, but you do get points just for showing up. So good. You punch in, you get your points, you live happily ever after. In that regard, you might want to get Adley Rutschman because he's gonna get all the playing time. And maybe Gabriel Moreno too, because he kind of came on strong. Now you can see 35 games here, 31 games for Moreno. I'm sorry, when I say 35 games here, I meant Adley Rutschman had played 35 games since August 21st, 31 for Moreno, 27 for Naylor. But look at this. Since August 21st, 7 home runs for Naylor, 4 stolen bases for Naylor. Gabriel Moreno, 2 home runs, 2 stolen bases. Adley Rutschman, 4 home runs, 1 stolen base. And RBI it's about that same range there, Harry. 15 to 21 RBIs for all three of those guys. 14 to 19 runs scored for three of those guys. It's kind of similar. You're picking this guy number one. You're burning a high draft pick for Adley Rutschman, but these other rookies, literally rookies last year, they eventually found their niche. They started getting more playing time. Their respective teams, the Guardians and the Diamondbacks, started to trust them more. And there's a reason why I was able to win with Bo Naylor is because it clicked. It just clicked. It just needed repetition. He needed the experience and Major League Baseball talent, and he's slowly but surely living up to potential. The one thing that Rushman had over a guy like Gabriel Moreno, not that Moreno's bad at it, but Rushman has this ridiculous walk per strikeout ratio that to me just shows that he has this maturity plate approach and plate discipline like no other. Not to say that Moreno doesn't, but relatively speaking, Rushman is at another level. Oh, but then there's Bo Naylor who walks as many times as he strikes out at even one. To give you an idea what that means, think about Barry Bonds.
Wow. Okay.
Because I'm not saying that he's Barry Bonds, because Barry Bonds is a video game. Like I'll show you some of Barry Bonds' walk per strikeout ratio. But if you can walk as many times as you strike out in today's game,
Yeah, yeah, that's 1 for 1. You're right. Wow.
I'm going crazy because Rushman goes at 0.95. You don't see that a lot, especially for young guys like that. A 0.62 for Gabriel Moreno, that's pretty damn good too now in today's game. But let's have some fun. Since we're talking about it, let's while this thing loads up. By the way, while this thing loads up, do you have any questions, any comments that you want to speak while I look up Barry Bonds' numbers?
No, this is perfect. I'm so intrigued.
I'm not boring you.
Not at all. No. No, really. I mean, I'm not saying that. I mean this. I'm really liking what I'm like experiencing here. Like I never thought about it this way. Even when I did the fantasy baseball those couple of years back then, I never even looked into it like to this magnitude. Like I'm kind of glad I am. Now it makes sense now what I heard earlier today.
I'm
Like,
not. You don't feel like I'm questioning your intelligence or anything like that. That's like these are criticisms I get all the time. So
well, no, but see, but
I'm
I came to you telling you. No, see, first of all, I don't have an ego like that. Like, if I don't know
okay.
something, like, I'm not going to put on a front, like, oh, I know this. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
not going to do that. I think you know that very much with wrestling. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I love wrestling. You know what I mean? I love basketball, but never claim to know everything. You learn something new every day, and I can be wrong a million times. Like, I don't have an ego here with that type of stuff. So with baseball, where I fell off it for a while,
Hmm.
now I'm just trying to find my way back to it, and the way you're presenting it's really, making me want to do so. So it's great for me.
Yeah. So here's Barry Bonds in 92 with the Pirates. This last season with the Pirates was at a 1.84. Remember, I was happy to see a guy at 0.95. Bonds is at 1.84 in the early 90s.
Wow.
But okay, so as you know, strikeouts are increasing all over baseball as chicks take the long ball. So when you show off a power swing, you tend to strike out more. So Barry Bonds, let's say around
Do you see that 4.21?
yeah, 2002, and that might have been the year that he hit the 73 home runs,
Right, they
right?
were intentionally walking him, right?
I'm sorry, what was that? I'm sorry.
They were intentionally walking him
Yes.
a lot of the time.
By the way, he did this as a 36-year-old. We're talking about Altuve being too old. Sorry, yeah,
Yeah, come on.
36,
Altuve's
37 years
not
old.
Barry Bonds. Listen, even before Barry Bonds was supposedly HGH,
I'm just
Barry
saying. I'm
Barry
just
Bonds
saying.
was a Hall of Famer before the HGH.
I'm just saying. It helps. It helps. It
Was
helps.
Bonds? Hold on.
Hold on.
5.66.
Yeah, video game. I mean,
That is a video game.
I
That's
mean,
crazy.
I normally see 37.6% when I see relief pitchers striking out batters that high. No, that's his walk rate. He was walking at like so every time he went up to not at bat, just a plate appearance. So remember, a plate appearance accounts for all the unofficial at bats, right? Like the walks and maybe the sacrifice hits. I forgot what constitutes as an official at bat and what doesn't. But plate appearances, this is how many times did you go up to plate? Because every time you go up to the plate, that counts as one plate appearance, no matter what the outcome is. So close to 40% of the time in 2004, he was walking. Think about that. We regale hitters for being able to get a base hit 30% of the time. This mug was getting on base via walk 40% of the time in the
That's
2004
crazy.
season. Like when you look at the history of the game, I don't think Babe Ruth has ever done that. I don't think Ted Williams has. And again, that's that we can go into that rabbit hole as well, but we might have to save that for another episode. But I mean, we're talking the video game numbers, and this is what I don't want to get too much into Barry, but I just wanted to display just how, you know, 5.66, that's such an anomaly that it's
That's
ridiculous
insane.
and
That
laughable. So
it's insane, but it's real. I witnessed it. You witnessed it. We
yeah,
saw it. I
it,
mean,
and it still seemed unreal. But we knew what was going on. We knew what was happening. Don't tell me that kids, if you're listening to this show, do drugs, do all the injections, do all the
listen,
pills, do
listen.
all the and make.
Fritz, stop now. Sorry for all
I
you
want you.
baseball fans. You don't know who Fritz is. Look up Fritz von Erich.
I don't want you to shut up. I want you to shoot up. One kid dies one by one. But just like Barry Bonds would kill pitchers one by one by one. I mean, he killed the. I saw him hit home runs against Troy Percival, John Smoltz, Eric Gagne. These are not Vern Gagne. Everything's wrestling.
Everything's wrestling.
That's not even his
Bird
name.
guy.
That's not even his name. His name is Eric Gagne, not Gagne. But yeah, French Canadian, whatever. Although Gagne was Vern was in Minnesota. Anyway, let's go back to. So anyway, the point is, yeah, even the isolated power. I mean, 351 for Bo Naylor. That basically 35% of the. Shoot, I forgot what it was. Plate appearances or at bats. Either way, isolated power only cares about doubles, triples, and home runs. Think of this as 35% compared to these guys at 15% and 16%. Michael Jordan rules. Last I checked, 35% beats 15% all the time. And batting average was about the same. Again, this is supposed to be the Adley Rutschman, supposed to be the number one guy. He's losing batting average to these rookies as of August 21st and beyond. Identical 391 on base percentages
Now,
after August 21st.
could one argue that Cleveland had an easier schedule? I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. Could someone argue that, that's why Naylor was, doing better and that sort of, I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing
Well,
it.
then what's up with Moreno? He plays on the AL and the NOS, which is notorious for having a lot of pitcher-friendly ballparks, and they're facing tougher competition over there too, with the Dodgers, the Padres, the Giants to a certain extent. Although you have lunch and dinner with you feast on the Rockies and in Colorado. But regardless, I mean, the West Coast is notorious for being pitcher-friendly.
You're right. No, that's why I asked. No,
No,
you're right. You're right.
if anything, the argument would be that Rushman playing all those games is finally catching up to him in the dog days of summer.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that
that makes sense.
and I'm showing this just to show the risk you take when you take a catcher this early. Like Ariel Cohen was saying, you might as well wait because it's deep and you have all these young guys. And again, I have always warned people, don't chase after too many catching prospects, but there's something going on with the catching position in the last 2 or 3 seasons where they're not just being molded to be these defensive only wizards like the Austin Hedges that the guy just showed you for the Guardians, but you're seeing guys who can go up there and hold their own with the baseball bat. I've never seen it this deep before in my life here. It's been a while since I've seen the catching position this deep, where I can look at you in the eye and say, yeah, wait. And I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe why would I tell Harry not to get the Travis Kelce of catchers? But after doing this little exercise, and again, it's a small sample size, but still, this is promising because you're seeing those young catchers, Gabriel Moreno and Bo Naylor. Not to say that Adley Rutschman is old because he's only in his second season. He's 26 years old, but the other two guys got a late start in their careers, relatively speaking, and they're starting to, and they were able to figure things out on their own. The more
Now,
playing time they got. Go ahead.
I have two questions. Well, one question for both things. So, are these sites free or do you have to pay for them?
I mean, I donate because they give me so much information. I mean, I'd be a selfish prick if I didn't donate a little
No,
something.
I got no problem. I just didn't. I just figured, people who are if someone's following us would want to know,
Yeah, yeah. So
or as
Fangra,
well, like
so a website like Fangraphs is free. Baseball Reference is free, but they also have a premium package. If you're curious to pay what they offer, a website like Baseball Perspectives, that's a pay site. If you want to look deeper, I don't know if you want to actually pay for Baseball America. I don't know. I used to use Baseball America a lot, but it seems like a lot of websites like Fangraphs have overtaken them as the premier prospect um, prospect site, baseball prospect site. And even MLB offers a lot of free stuff, but not like this. I mean, but the almighty one is the Baseball Savant. So if you think this is like too nerdy for you, get into Baseball Savant. At least you can kind of relate. Well, you know what, Harry? We're having so much fun. Let's go over to the Baseball Savant page.
no. I mean, so fan graphs, you can donate, which I have no problem doing, and then Fantasy Pros.
That's that should be free, but they do have a premium package where you can actually you can sync your baseball team to their website,
Right,
and
I heard
and and,
that.
and then
They'll give you like advice,
they'll give you advice who you should
kind of like
start.
what ESPN Insider used to do for ESPN fantasy football and stuff like that.
Sounds about right.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, so you could pay whatever. Me, I like to do my own search, my own research, as you could tell. So I don't, I donate to Fangraphs because I use that's the one of the only websites I use like almost exclusively. So I donate because I think it's worth it. And I'm, you know what?
Show me Baseball Savant if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm just setting it up. It's taking a while to load, but
Okay.
let's look at Adley Rushman, right? All right. So, and nothing out of the ordinary. There's your traditional statistics on the left side. And boom, right there. Tough acting to acting. You just look at all these sliders. Anything that's red means it's great. So basically, this is saying that in terms of batting run value, I have no idea what batting run value is, but just to give you an example, that 82 that you see there, let me make this bigger for the listeners out there or the viewers on YouTube. 82 means that he's 82% better than everybody um, who qualified in this statistic. Now, like, here we go. Average exit velocity, 88.4 miles an hour was the average exit velocity, which means he's only better than 32%. So that might be a knock, but at the same time, he's a catcher. Give him a break, all right? And he's a switch hitter.
Uh,
So that might be a problem. That might be that he needs to just stick with one side of the plate, as many players are finding out the hard way in this modern day of baseball where everything's so specialized and they
I
just focus on one side of the plate and not the other anymore. Go ahead.
I assume that there's a way of finding out which way he hits better or
Yeah, but I'm not interested.
no, I'm just asking, like
Yeah, there probably is. I just
okay, that's
yeah,
fine.
that
Oh,
you know,
splits. Would splits be it? No, that's not it. No, splits is
yeah, I
different.
think that might be it. That might
Oh,
be it.
okay.
Where do you see that? You see it on this page or you see it
On the
somewhere else?
bottom, when you on the bottom of the page, it says stat.
No. Oh, okay. Let's see. Let's find out.
Maybe it's not.
Oh, no, it's versus lefty versus righty.
Oh, okay, that's what that is.
Well,
Okay.
hold on now. If he's versus lefty, he's batting right-handed. So he 304, 895 ops on base plus slugging. And versus righty, when he would be hitting left-handed, he had 267, 359. So the right-hand side, and I believe the right-hand side was the power side. I believe that was the where the big power came in the home run derby, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
I might be wrong though, but yeah, I mean he's naturally right-handed because he throws right-hand. He's a catcher, so it only makes sense that the 895 and 481 slugging percentage that just proves that he's a very powerful on the right-handed side, but he only has 6 home runs on that side. But that's because he's not facing a lot of left-handed pitchers as he would.
Right.
So that's just baseball 101 right there. So I'm trying to see. Oh, they even have it by how does he do when he bats first and bats second, bats third, bats sixth, and it turns out he loves batting second, which makes sense. He does look like the perfect number two hitter. So I'm not surprised by that. So that's where he's comfortable at. 419 at bats for the guy, batting number
Wow.
two.
All these stats is just amazing.
I mean, I'm telling you, brother. I mean, and this is free. This is free right here. Like
Wow.
94% whiff percentage. That means he's like it's hard to make him swing at pitches that you want him to swing at. We just saw how good his plate discipline was, and we're gonna see it and when we go back to the other page. But 94%, now you have a number. He's 94% better than his peers, not just catchers, but all universal hitters who qualify
Wow.
for these statistics.
Wow.
There's also, if you're interested in, you don't care about fantasy, okay, blocks above average. That must be new. I don't even know what that is, but blocks above average, that must mean literally the pitches that he can block
Right.
that prevents pass balls and wild pitches. 85% better than his peers.
That's interesting.
Framing 84% better than his peers. Pop time. I assume that's that sounds like the literal how fast can you get into a throwing stance from a crouch? 81% better than his peers. This is ridiculous. It's just I would have killed to have this data when I was a kid. Imagine what these young kids, the advantages they have with the technology and the free resources that are out there. You have a bunch of, I mean, that's going to be the competition for fantasy baseball, but that might be the guys who grew up, the kids who grew up looking at these websites for hours in college instead of doing their homework. I mean, it's crazy to think, right? It's
Wow.
absolutely bonkers to think that these guys might actually be the next generation of baseball front office people. Framing 85% for a guy like Yadier Molina, 77 percentile for blocks above average. Mind you, this is a 2022 number. He was already, in his last legs.
Right.
So, but still, at that advanced age, he was still holding his own. Maybe not the 90% of Adley Rutschman, but that's why Adley Rutschman is the future of the sport at that position. So, but the fact that Molina's still 85% framing, 85 percentile framing at the age of whatever that was,
Yeah,
late
19,
30s.
yeah, 41 or yeah, well, he's 41 now, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. All right, let's maybe how far back does this go? Pop time 77 percentile. So yeah, there's a cutoff. But anyway, feel free to peruse around. I mean, there's let's go back to 2022. There's Yadier Molina's hit spray. A lot of
wow.
the home runs he pulled these are the home runs he pulled to the left side, extremely to the left side. A lot of singles. As you can see, there's a lot of pull on his base hits. A lot of infield hits too, to my surprise. There's this double down the line, and I think if you click on it, you might be able to watch it. Let's find out, Harry. Let's find out. Yeah,
That's crazy.
let me turn that off, and I don't know who he's facing there, but there it is down the line to right field.
Someone
Fair
actually
ball.
puts this together, like that's crazy.
Technology, brother, technology. Learn to love it, learn to embrace it. This is the future, man. This is the present, actually. They said that this was going to happen, and it happened. Look, and then you can see from the catcher's perspective, um, catcher had to put his glove towards the first base side to try to catch this ball that was pitched to him by Carlos Carrasco, Cookie, for the New York Mets. And Molina took that high, what was it? A fastball, four seamer. He took that four seamer above the strike zone
Wow.
and was able to place it down the right field line at an exit velocity of 92.6 miles an hour. Wait, no, sorry. The fastball was 92.6 miles an hour. I was going to say that looked like a floater because it was a floater, 78.5 miles an hour exit velocity for 219 feet hit distance. And that happened on
That's
April
crazy.
27, 2022. Embrace it, love it, cherish it while it's
That's
free.
crazy.
Yeah, so that's Yadier Molina. But we're talking about Adley Rutschman, right? This is the Adley Rutschman show. I'm your host, Adley Felipe, and Harry Felipe Adley over there as well from Connecticut. It's getting late, brother. I'm like losing my mind here. But this is what I live for, brother. This is what I live for. So let's look at his head spray. Bombs. Bombs over Baghdad over here. Look at this crap. Look, I want to see what that one was. Can I see that? Or is that not ready yet? It's not ready. Let's look at. Oh, well, that's the key. That's the
That's
legend.
the legend, key legend. Yeah,
Idiot. Anyway, this is Adley Rutschman hitting a fly ball to right field.
against the Yankees of all teams.
And it goes. Is it gonna hit the warehouse? No, but it did go down the line of Cordero. I don't know who Cordero is, but there's Adley Rutschman. Look where this ball is, man. Fastball, 97.8 mph down the middle, and he just ate that up like yesterday's cupcakes.
This is crazy.
Jimmy Cordero. Oh, I remember Jimmy Cordero. Yeah, so Cordero threw a sinker at 97.8 miles per hour. It looked like it was a sinker that didn't sink all the way through.
Yeah, it
Eh,
stayed up.
108 mph exit velocity, no big deal. 408 feet. And that also happened on April 9th of 2023.
That's insane.
I mean, this is it, man. This is not your grandfather's baseball.
Thank God I have a laptop upstairs. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah. Now there's a triple that he hit here. I'm kind of curious to see what he did to get that triple. I believe triple. I believe triples are worth 3 points. And off a pitcher I absolutely adore is Christian Javier, although it looked like he was wearing down last year. So let's find out what. Oh, and look at here. So four seamer, slider, four seamer, knuckle curve, slider. So Javier is up to his wits. He doesn't know what else to do. He's thrown everything but the kitchen sink. So let's see. If you throw your last pitch was a slider, you tried throwing a curveball already. I say he goes fastball away. What do you think? Without looking, what do you think he's gonna go?
We go. I fastball definitely away.
All
Probably
right,
down,
let's find out.
down away.
The pitch. Oof, he's up and in. Yeah, up and away. You're right. And he just couldn't. Who's that guy? That's Chas McCormick. And there goes Rushman. He might not be the fastest guy. He might not be stealing any bases, but damn, god damn it, he hustles like a hustler, brother.
Wow.
That is a baseball player right there. I tell you what. Don't tell me that I don't have a fucking human element to that. There's no eye test to me. Oh, Felipe just does statistics. No, look at this crap.
Who says
It,
that to you?
people tell me all the time.
I
I
think you're in
never,
your own head.
I never played the game, so my opinion don't matter. So there you go. And Javier threw a 93.5 mile per hour fastball four seamer. It's not, and this is where the guys will see exit velocity doesn't mean anything. But he put the ball in play. That's all. And when you put the ball in play, we just talked about it. You put the ball in play, you make contact, and see what happens. Chas McCormick overplayed it. He tried to be a hero, and Rushman was out running
Wow.
with nobody out. By the way, he's a leadoff hitter in this at bat. Oh, yeah, leadoff,
Yep.
bottom of the first. His team's down 2-0, by the way, already.
Wow.
But he has to put his team on the back, though. He has to put that team on his back, Harry. I'll tell you,
Fritz
man.
is there. Fritz would be screaming at him to go take a shot beforehand too.
So yeah, fastball away. Yeah, because I think Rushman would be on this side. This is from the catcher's perspective, so this would be away, and because that's what we thought Javier should be doing, throw it away from him. And Rushman still made some, maybe not the.
I thought he'd throw it, down and away. He threw it up.
Oh, I thought you said up and away. I
Well, I
thought,
said down and away, but he threw it up.
but
Interesting.
but he's not the only good hitter. I mean, I mentioned Will Smith, and I know we're getting off a tangent here, and I don't even know if this is what the episode was supposed to be about, but
No, but this is great. I'm enjoying it.
I'm having so much fun. I should be sleeping by now, but I don't care. This is like I haven't had this much fun in a long time, Harry. I tell you what, I'm a simple man. It doesn't take much to entertain me. So we saw Rushman have a lot of red on his sliders, except for the exit velocity. Will Smith isn't a slouch either. Although that's a higher percentile of exit velocity than Adley Rutschman, but it's still around the bluish area. It's catchers, man. They're very inconsistent hitters. Even the better ones, they could be inconsistent.
Right.
Yeah. But very patient guy, a good plate discipline, great approach. Not the defensive wizard that Rushman is. That's why guys like Clayton Kershaw have personal catchers in Los Angeles. 'Cause look at framing at 30. No, Kershaw needs a guy who can frame the hell out of those pitches. That junk ball that he throws out there every time. Oh, let's see. Oh, let's look at this. Let's look at this beauty right here, this home run. And let me see. Uh, uh, so it's against some guy named Smith. Oof. Oh, that's a beautiful golf swing. I'll tell you what.
Wow.
Left field bleachers. His 15th of the year. I guess that's what that means. Off of Peter Lambert, who I thought was left-handed, but apparently he's choo choo. Apparently he's right-handed. I didn't know that. He threw him a slider. Uh,
Wow.
that might have been on the knees right there. I can take a look back. Oof. Can I? Uh, so yeah, right around the knees. And Will
That's
Smith loves
amazing.
that shit, man. 103 exit velocity, 417 feet. It's a thing of beauty. Let's look at that again. I wish I could do it in slow motion. Can I? Oh, I can. Hey, Harry, look at this crap. What?
That's why.
Look at this. No, 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 no. This is great radio right here. Lambert's about to throw that slider. It's gonna dip. Oof! Read it like a book. That's beautiful, man. 85 miles per hour wasn't enough.
So
I
you're
don't,
just watching Major League again, and, like the movie in the slow motion.
yeah. On the 0-1 pitch into the stands. That's all she wrote. I'm probably gonna get in trouble for copyright infringement, but I mean, come on. How can I not share this with the people? Oh, and guess what? He also hit a triple down the line. And this will be the last video we see.
Yeah, two triples.
Yeah, he had two triples last year. So this is off. Let's pause it here. This is off. What the hell's his name? I believe that's Matt Marsh, the reliever. Pretty good
Alec.
relief pit. What?
Alec Marsh.
Oh, is that the Phillies guy? Is that the guy who used to play for the? No, 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 no. Never mind, never mind. I thought it was Matt Brash, but you're right. It's Alec Marsh, and I'm thinking of Alec Asher. It's late at night. Sorry about that. So Alec Marsh. Still, it's the Marin. Oh, it's the Royals. Never mind. Yeah, this is gonna be. If anybody knows how to mess up a game, it's gonna be the Royals, and you're gonna see right here. Doesn't know where that ball was going, but of course. And who's that? MJ Melendez. Oh, that's Drew Waters. And you know what? They thought it was foul.
Wow.
They thought it was a foul ball. What happened there? Is that a triple?
That's in.
That's in. So he just, nonchalantly goes to second. Oh, it just stops there. So he must have gone to third when Drew Waters was taking his sweet time, but it gets credited for a triple, and that's how the video ends. You know what?
Wow.
That's such a letdown, though, Harry. Let's look at this one. This might be driven. This one, and this is off John Brevia, who's a pretty good relief pitcher, and just Stremski. Oh, it pops off the glove. Don't tell me
Oof.
Don't tell me catchers don't have speed. Don't tell me catchers don't have speed. Made it all the way to third base on that blunder by just Stremski trying to do too much. Trying to
Wow.
make the highlight reel. Another slider. He's a good slider pitcher, I guess you could say. Is he a good slider pitcher? You know what, Harry? We might have data for that too. Breaking pitch, 2023. Mm, no, he's not. But 460 slugging percentage.
Hmm.
Do you tell me what that means? There's that one triple off of that slider of John Bravia, 11 doubles, 7 home runs. He can hold his own, not all the time.
He likes the off-speed pitch, it looks like in 2023. Batting
Where's
average
that?
of 316.
Yeah, but only 404. So he's not really driving. He's more like kind of battling it out.
Gotcha. Okay.
So because the 404 slugging percentage, that tells me that he's not hitting it with much authority, but he's doing enough to put the ball in play and get 15 singles out of it. So
Yeah, his home runs, you're right. His home runs are not as high.
only
But
two doubles, but it only he only saw 9% of off-speed pitches last year. So it might be just the thing that he doesn't see them all the time.
gotcha. Okay.
But he sees plenty of fastballs and breaking pitches, apparently. I mean, brother. Oh, here
It's
we go.
crazy.
Ah, you want more numbers? Here's more numbers. Ah, this is more like it. He loves hitting sliders that we've seen last year. 276 batting average.
Wow.
It's so why is it so low? Is it the sweeper then that's giving him trouble. Yeah, $1.88, but that's only 4.5% of pitches. The slurves, but that's not enough pitches to see. So what's causing it to be so low? But all I see is that he's 317 with a 488 slugging percentage off of curveballs and 276 batting average and 490 slugging percentage off of sliders. I mean, this guy knows how to hit too, man. I
Wow.
mean, he gets overshadowed by Adley Rutschman. Anyway, have fun with that website. And to finish up, as I mentioned, so the third guy is Rutschman. The second guy is Moreno. The first guy is Bo Naylor. They're all these three guys are extremely patient. They don't. This is the outside the strike zone swing percentage, and I don't mean to. I wasn't. My intent was not to show you all this to you in the first episode. I was gonna gradually kind of make you discover these things. But since you were asking and you seem to be enthusiastic and the catching position got brought up and I did this research, I wanted to share this with you. But I think anything below 30% outside the strike zone swing percentage, that's a very patient hitter. Overall swing percentage is below 45%. Again, these guys are very patient hitters. And they make plenty of contact. 86% for Rushman, 83.6 for Moreno, who that's his thing, makes lots of contact. 81.3% for Bo Naylor during this stretch after August 21st.
Hmm.
So, I mean, if it's over 80%, that's pretty damn good, Harry. You would take that. Now, what kind of contact are they making? I don't know, but judging by these other numbers, they're pretty damn solid contact. Go ahead. I'm
Oh,
sorry
yeah,
you
for
had a
sure.
question.
No, no,
Uh,
no.
this is the outside the strike zone contact, which is pretty low for Naylor. But then again, he doesn't swing a lot of pitches outside the strike zone anyway, so it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't, right? But it's just he just doesn't take too many swings, so therefore his contact rate is going to be low. So it's like chicken or the egg kind of thing. Is he bad at hitting outside the strike zone, or is it that he's so patient that he doesn't even bother, and it makes it look like he doesn't make enough contact? I'll let you decide that one. Rushman, though, he's the good 75.4% outside the strike zone contact rate. I mean, and then the big one, the bread and butter is the exit velocity. So to me, Bo Naylor's one after August 21st looked a little fluky because it's only an exit velocity of 86.7 miles an hour. But Moreno and Rushman, 89 miles an hour, man.
Wow.
I mean, we want to see those numbers above 90, but 89 is pretty damn close. 89.8, pretty damn close. Most importantly, the Moreno, who's supposed to be the contact guy, which means that he usually hits for softer contact rate, 46.8% hard hit rate. That's the highest in this grouping right here.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But
Huh.
it's a red flag because it only comes with a 3.8 barrel rate. So these are the things you got to look into. Or not you person. That's the things I look into. You know, does the 46.8% make sense? Exit velocity says it does, but the 3.8% barrel rate tells me it doesn't make too much sense.
So how is that happening?
Exactly. How is that happening? And launch angles at 5.7%, which means that you know what it is? He's hitting a lot of sharp grounders. Because the launch angle, if it's at 5.7%, that usually means that he's hitting a lot of ground balls.
Hmm. Okay.
Not to scare you.
No, no, no. It's not
Not
scaring me. It's just, it's like
it's new, right?
it's new. Yeah. Just learning it.
And let's test out that theory. Is Gabriel Moreno hitting a lot of ground balls, which I think he is, but the shift is gone, so he's able to get away with that, and he's hitting them very sharply at a 46.8% hard hit rate, 89.8 miles an hour. Where a guy like 86.7 miles an hour for Bo Naylor, that must mean that he's hitting a lot of fly balls because he's hitting them on the button, but it's only at 30.6% hard hit rate. So let's find out. Batted ball data, right? All of this available on Fangraphs. Boom, 49.4% ground ball rate for Gabriel Moreno. Highest in this batch. Boom, right there. What'd I tell you? Bo Naylor hits a lot of fly balls, 54.8%.
Yeah, you did say that. Wow.
I mean, come on, guys. I'm not making this up. I'm not grabbing things out of my ass and just, this is the game that they play. This is the game that we play in, man. This is what we live for.
Wow.
I mean, but so it just, if anything, it just proves how awesome Adley Rutschman is because he's able to hit with a more balanced approach. As you can see, Bo Naylor's 43.5% pull rate. Well, Rutschman showed that he can spray it all over the field.
Right.
And I mentioned Moreno hitting those sharp grounders. up the middle more than usual, more than likely. We're no shift anymore, so that just means more production for the guy because he doesn't have to worry about guys playing extreme defenses and fielding alignments anymore. Let that sink in for a little bit.
I still can't believe they got rid of the shift. That still boggles my mind.
It's done wonders for baseball. It's done wonders for these offensive players, and it's probably the reason why these catchers, Bo Naylor and Gabriel Moreno, probably were able to produce even in their rookie season late in the year because the margin of error is a lot what do you call it? Higher, or would it be higher or lower? The margin of error is not what it used to be before, where you had a tight window. Those windows are open now.
Yeah, so the margin of error is lower.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not the most, like I said, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but
You're pretty
I
smart. I learned a lot tonight. You're pretty smart.
but yeah, it's just baseball. When you talk to me about baseball and baseball numbers, I turn into Einstein, or I better be careful. But you know, suddenly math is just an interesting topic for me, and it's all because of baseball. It's a beautiful game. It's a beautiful sport, and all of this information available, and it just kind of breaks my heart a little bit that people decide that no, I'm just gonna pretend that baseball is still being played like it's 1972 or something, and that's not the case, man. This game evolves more than people think it does. But at any rate, anything else you want to talk about? I know you had a thing of things to talk about, but we're kind of running out of time. We're actually
Yeah, we are
well
running
over
out of time.
time. It's late in your area. Let's see. We talked about catchers, sleeping pitchers. I do have an episode where I talk by myself for about 2 hours, and I will quickly go because you've been such a good sport. I will quickly go through some of my favorite pitchers because I would tell you go listen to that episode, Harry, but that was back in early January. We're now in early February, and things change all the time in fantasy baseball, right?
Hmm.
That's why I kind of would like to wait until the very last minute to finish all my rankings and finish all the research. But when you do that, you risk yourself. You put yourself out there for not being completely ready for the season. But yeah, Shohei Ohtani, you can ignore him because he's going to be picked as a DH, and he probably only qualifies as your utility position in fantasy leagues because he doesn't play any field. He doesn't wear the glove.
Right.
He shouldn't because he's Tommy John surgery. So he's just be thankful that he could probably hit this season. But Spencer Strider is the number one guy who I love last year, but this year as the number one guy, I don't know, man. That's a young pitcher. Still hasn't really gone through long stretches of struggles because last year he was pretty damn automatic. Later in the year, though, it did seem like he was kind of falling off a cliff, and that probably cost him the Cy Young Award. But he was pretty damn automatic. If we ever take a time to look at his numbers, they're video game numbers, brother.
Wow.
Like he's posting relief pitcher statistics, but he's doing it 5, 6, 7 innings at a time. These relief pitchers only do 1 inning at a time. This guy's doing it 6, 7. The other thing that's amazing about Spencer Strider is he's basically a two-pitch pitcher, fastball slider. That's it. Now, did he?
That's it?
Well, I don't know. I don't know
Wow.
if
Okay.
last I checked. Oh, that's my daughter. Never mind. Uh, hello. Let's find out since we're still up here. Strider, because I think that was the throughout the year last year. That was like people's worries about him was that well he's only a two pitch pitcher, fastball slider. But in my view, you don't get that good without developing as a pitcher without the starting pitcher I should say without developing some third pitch, even if it's just a small improvement. And I don't know why this thing's giving me trouble, so I'll just start over. Anyway, while I look that up, any comments about anything so far while this thing loads up, Harry?
Not really. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it's going to take time for me to understand this stuff and learn how to use these sites, but
And you gotta have an open mind because that's the number one thing. Like baseball fans over the last 10, 15 years since I started writing about baseball and talking about baseball and things of that nature and sharing content about baseball is that they are disappointingly pretty close-minded. right? Like I said, everybody thinks it's 1972 over here, and it's not. But if you have an open mind, your world could open up to things you never experienced before, and it gives you a different perspective as to what this great game of ours is. Sorry, here it is. So 7.3% changeup, which, but as you can see, fastball, slider, fastball, slider. He's throwing less fastballs, but that's because he's around this time, the Braves turned him into a starting pitcher because they were in desperate need for starting pitchers. And
Hmm.
they found out that he's pretty damn good. And you know what? In around this time in the offseason of 2022, Sean, my friend Sean Flannery, Austin Spiro, and myself, we were looking at baseball savant numbers. Remember that website we showed you? That
Yep.
I should. And and we looked at all these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pitchers, and they were all ranked. I forgot how I ranked them, but the more you scroll down, because I had everything color coordinated, the more blue you saw, that means you were in no man's land. These are just pitchers you should avoid in fantasy circles because they're not going to do anything. And then with an orange reddish hue to his one of his statistical colors, Spencer Strider in a deep sea of nothing. Spencer Strider just shows up like one of those fish with the light bulbs on top. Spencer Strider. So we kept it in mind. And sure enough, that's the year that he broke out, 2022, where the Braves were turning him from a relief pitcher to a starting pitcher.
Wow.
And so the fastball decreased, they increased the slider, and they're working on a changeup. He didn't have to worry about a changeup when he was just a relief pitcher, but when they try to turn him into a starting pitcher, yeah, let's work on that changeup to keep these hitters off balance. And that's probably a project we should do for next time is go to Baseball Savant and see what that changeup looks like and if we could find those videos and have some fun in that regard. But anyway, but this is a concern of mine. He got away with it last year. Can he get away with it again this year in 2024 with better scouting from other teams, more tape on the guy? You tell me, Harry, is this a recipe for success and justify the number one pitching spot coming into the season? Or is it a recipe for disaster? You tell me.
I think it's to be determined because it's
Mm.
you can't try you don't know for sure.
Hmm. And that's the problem. So anyway, sorry about that.
No,
Daughter,
I'm sorry at all.
daughter showing up again. And there's Garrett Cole, who's a consensus top two, top three pitcher every single year. But I don't trust him too much. He plays for the Yankees. I don't know what to make of the Yankees. We just talked about the Yankees earlier in this podcast. And he plays in Yankee Stadium. It's a hitter-friendly ballpark, although depending on how you ask, it may not be a hitter-friendly ballpark. All I know is that there's a short portion left field, and I don't want to be involved in that. Corbin Burns might be a thing now that he's with the Baltimore Orioles. So, but he too kind of looked kind of human last year. He wasn't his dominant self. And that's another guy who, a converted relief pitcher who became a starting pitcher, and he still has some relief pitching uh foibles. The guy that you could probably cement is Zach Wheeler. If I come away with Zach Wheeler as my ace pitcher, I'm feeling good about myself. And where is Zach Wheeler? Well, I'm not gonna go into that because we're running out of time. Kevin Gausman's another guy. This guy only throws one pitch. That's a splitter. Do
Wow.
you trust that? Is he still doing that? Let's find out. Because that's something that people, a lot of podcasts I listen to, they talk about Kevin Gausman. Oh, he only throws one pitch. He only throws one pitch, but he still produces, though, right? So you kind of have to, what do you call it? Give him his flowers and say, wow, this guy's pretty damn good. Former Baltimore Orioles promising prospect back in the early 2010s, fell out of favor with them. But we're looking to see what he does. There's a splitter right here, Harry. See? Even show if you hover over it, it tells you what kind of pitch on their
Wow.
player profile. Okay, so he throws a lot of splitters, but he still throws a fastball. So I don't know what the hell they're talking about. So he still the fastballs at a 50% rate. The splitter is the second pitch, and then that's it. The slider's the third pitch. So kind of like Spencer Strider, three pitch pitcher.
Hmm.
So it's interesting. This is he's finding success just using these three pitches. It's amazing, and without even bothering developing a fourth. I mean, there was a changeup in 2022, but look at that. He's already giving up on it, and he didn't even bother using it last year. Three pitch pitcher, fastball, splitter, slider, and the splitter might be one of the best, if not the very best in all of baseball. So anyway, that's among the elite pitchers. I think I'm comfortable with Zach Wheeler. Not to say that these guys are bad, but I think Zach Wheeler, if you get him, offers you more flexibility to fill out your roster with hitters and things of that
So,
nature.
so he
You
goes
know,
in the he goes in the second round.
who Zach Wheeler does. Let me see.
Well, he's a 25th overall pick, roughly.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. So it's early third round, late second round. So, but if you get lucky, get him in the third round and you're able
Well,
to hold off.
I'm in a 14 team league, right? So wouldn't it be second round?
Oh, for you, yeah. So you're probably gonna lose out on him. All
Yeah,
right. Well, I mean, okay, so let's keep going then. Zach Gallen, I just heard that he has some arm issues, so let's get away from him. Pablo Lopez is a very sneaky pick. So he's going, what is that, the fourth or third round for you, Pablo Lopez? So again, the question is, do you trust him to be your ace? It's
right.
a very unsexy pick, but the guy produces, doesn't give up a lot of walks. Same thing with George Kirby, but he doesn't strike out too many guys. Yamamoto, the Japanese import, he's too much of a, I'm surprised he's number 11 on this list because he's such an unknown commodity. And there's Tyler Glass now, who high upside, but the Dodgers are going to coddle him
Right.
because they're not playing for April, May, or June. They're playing for September, October. And by then it might be too late. But I still love the guy. I had him in all three of my teams last year. Won two championships with him. I adore the guy, so I will always come to the defense of Tyler Glass now. But yeah, if I get him as my ace pitcher, even though he's only projected to throw 130, 140 innings pitch next year, I adore the guy. I can't help myself. But
What about Logan Webb? Ariel and Fantasy Pros, and then we're talking about Logan Webb. I forgot why, but they brought up Logan Webb.
I that's a very it's a very unsexy pick for me. Solid pick. I still don't see him as an ace pitcher though. He's more,
I think that's what they were talking about. They were on the fence about that.
yeah, maybe that's why. But the guy produces, but he's just such an unsexy pick for me. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's find out. Let's see what he did last year because I don't remember. I did not get him in any of my leagues last year. I had no interest in him. So a 27-year-old guy, the default ace for the San Francisco Giants. So blow he doesn't blow out anyone away with his strikeouts. Very outstanding control though. Only at one point. I mean, his walk rate keeps improving to the point where he's gonna have to not give up. But the other advantage for him is that he plays in a gargantuan ballpark, so he probably gives up more contact because he knows that any fly ball is just gonna die in the outfield.
Right.
I mean, he doesn't even give up a home run per nine inning. He's below one.
Wow.
3-0, yeah. So 62% ground ball rate. Yeah, he throws a lot of ground balls. That must mean he has a really good sinker. Let's find out. What does he have? What does he throw? Statcast. He throws a sinker. What I tell you? You think I make this up, Harry? You think I'm just
No, I didn't say
talking out
that
of
at
my
all.
ass?
I'm impressed. You know your stuff, man.
And he keeps headers off balance too. He's one of the few guys who could throw a lot of changeups too. So he's counting on guile out there, man.
He threw 41.6% in 2023.
Changeups, yeah. So he's
So he
keeping guys
jumped
off balance.
10%.
So yeah, so these kind of stay the same. Although no, he dropped the slider in favor of the changeup. So that must, yeah, it's pretty amazing what these pitchers do from year to year, brother. It really is amazing. What was his velocity? Yeah, his velocity is he's not he's that's why he's an unsexy pick for me because the velocity is not there. But the guile, the craft, he's a crafty pitcher. I mean, you can see that's all there. You don't have to go into these deep numbers to see that he's a very crafty pitcher.
Kind of a Maddox.
Oh, hold on. Not everybody is a Greg Maddux. Let's not go that route. I hate when people do no, not, and I see why they do it, but
I'm just comparing to someone that I can relate to. That's all. I don't mean that, I'm not someone who I haven't been following for years. So
no,
you
I
know,
get it, and I get why people.
I can't figure out who I can relate to.
And I
That's
get why people do it, but man, when I think about Greg Maddux, I mean, anyway, I mean,
I'm just
I
I'm
don't
not
blame you. I
saying
don't blame you. I don't
I'm
blame you.
not saying he's Greg Maddux. Don't get I'm not that stupid. Just I'm just saying that when I see numbers like that and I see the velocity down, I see, the percentages in the right directions,
Hmm.
of pitches, I think of someone who can paint corners and
Yeah.
who is precise. That's all. Doesn't mean, I mean, Maddox is on his own mountain.
Yeah.
I'm not that, I know that. I'm
And the
not that.
reason that's a pet peeve of mine, Harry, is because Cub fans, fellow Cub fans of mine, used to do that with Kyle Hendricks. Like, would you stop doing that to him? It's not fair to him. It's not fair. It's a lazy comparison. And not saying that you're being lazy, because I understand
Well,
why
I
people do
am.
it.
I am. I haven't watched baseball in 20 years. I
Like I said,
have here and
I
there.
get why people do it, but it just irks me still. I mean, it's because that's the one that everybody gravitates to. But
Okay, so all right, so then by all means, like who should I compare, him to rather than Maddox?
oh man, see that's a tough one, isn't it? Because I mean, you're talking about I mean, all these pitchers throughout the years. I mean, you could probably say
I mean, put you on the
maybe
spot. I'm
no,
just
yeah, I know, and like I said, I know why people do it. It's just an unfair comparison. And
It
when
is
I
unfair. No, I'm not saying, I'm just saying that I'm trying to relate to how can I
yeah,
understand this picture?
yeah.
And he's gravitating more towards the, you know, Greg Maddox than say Randy Johnson or
Oh
Rock.
yeah,
Clemens.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, for
That's,
sure. Yeah,
so
and I used to piss off Cub fans by saying, like, "Come on, Kyle Hendricks is Jamie Moyer, and be happy with that." And they used to be made so mad. What, Jamie Moyer? You don't think Jamie Moyer? He pitched till he was 50. Okay.
Jamie
Anyway,
Moore was a good pitcher. What are you talking about? He was a good pitcher.
yeah, he lasted for a while, a long time. Adam Wainwright is although I didn't realize how massive his walk rates. Right? What the hell am I
I'll
looking
give you
at?
another player. Eddie Murray was a good player.
Oh, I
He
love
lasted
Eddie
a very
Murray. Yeah,
long. He lasted a very long time. Is he
yeah.
a superstar? Like no, but he was a good player, great player at some aspects. I mean, but was a good player, but had long longevity.
So here's Adam Wainwright. Similar numbers to what we just saw from Webb, especially when you consider the strikeout per nine, the walk per nine. That's pretty darn close. Although, yeah, he was a starting pitcher by then in the early 2010s. So Adam Wainwright would be, you see that the drop in the walk rate as well from it was in the mid twos, and eventually he got it down to the below two walk per nine ratio.
Hmm.
But as the years went on, his strikeouts diminished. And I think that might be the same route that you'll see out of Logan Webb. As the strikeouts drop, yes, his walk rate is dropping, but his strikeouts are also dropping. Now, what kind of pitcher was he? Does he have any StatCast data? Because oh, yeah, he should, 2013, right? So let's find out. What kind of pitcher was he? In 2013, cutter. Was that a cutter? Yep, cutter. And sinker and curveball. So those were his three pitches. His main three pitches were, and during that peak of his career, cutter, sinker, curveball, almost at an even keel. So,
Hmm.
and well, the big thing about Logan Webb is that he throws a lot of ground ball rates, like 60% ground ball rate is this other one. What was Adam Wainwright doing in his heyday? Yeah, 51%, 50%. I'm comfortable comparing him to um, Adam Wainwright in the early 2010s. Ground ball pitcher, doesn't strike out a lot of guys, but has impeccable control and has a nice three mix pitch. He knows his three pitches and he goes out there and uses them all. Because the thing is, a lot of people will say, well, you need four, maybe five pitches to be a successful starting pitcher, and we're seeing that that's not always the case, right, Harry? You have three nice pitches, you can last a while in this game. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's Logan Webb. So yeah, sexy but unspectacular pick in my book. Terry Skubal is a guy I fell in love with, but again, he's still a developing pitcher, even though I think this would be his third or fourth year. I love him, but I don't know if I love him as a top 15 pitcher. Framber Valdez, he looked like he was gassed out last year. He looked really tired. A lot of the Astros pitchers look tired. Blake Snell might be the sneaky pick here at number 18. That's kind of criminal. And I would probably take Snell over Valdez, over Webb, over Skubal, over Max
But
Fried.
Snell still unsigned, huh?
He's still unsigned. That's probably why he's low. So if you're able to draft right now at this moment, Snell is your sneaky pick and hope for the best. But I would take Snell over a lot of these guys in the top 15. And that's coming from a guy who hated the idea that he won the Cy Young last year. There's Kodai Senga. I don't trust him as a 20th. Logan Gilbert's an interesting pitcher. But yeah, here's where the action starts, Harry. If you are able to hold off on pitcher and maybe get some of these guys, a handful of these guys who are ranked number 21 to like maybe number 29, 30, even Justin Verlander at number 34, Sonny Gray at number 35, this little window here, this might be the sweet spot. So you are able to hold off on pitching, build up your hitters, and if you get some of these high upside young starting pitchers who have their whole career ahead of them, and you're in a keeper league too, Harry, this might be the spot for you. And that's not me. I thought I was crazy. I just heard Eno Saris on the Rates and Barrels podcast over at The Athletic say the exact same thing. He loves this corridor of starting pitchers right here. You get a handful of these guys, I think you might be you could you're setting yourself up for some success here. I mean, yeah, 90th overall. Where is that? 90th overall on a 14 team league. What is that?
Hmm.
Sixth, seventh round, maybe.
Wow.
So if you wait off, you just got five pitchers. And looking at your team, you have more. You don't have any starting pitchers if you are to keep the guys I'm telling you to keep. And I'm telling you to keep Marcus Semien, Corbin Carroll, Kyle Tucker, Dansby Swanson, and Edwin Diaz. And
Wait,
for
on my team?
yeah, on your team, those are the guys I suggested that you should keep. The five keepers:
Who are they again?
Marcus Semien, Corbin Carroll.
Hold on, slow down. I'm gonna write this down.
I share it in the notes.
Oh, you
I
shared, you
share
put in notes?
Yeah, I shared it the sometime either yesterday or today. So
You
Marcus
did.
Sim.
You're right. You're right. You did.
So for
Sorry.
those who don't see the notes, it's Marcus Simeon, Corbin Carroll, Kyle Tucker, Dansby Swanson, Edwin Diaz. So Harry has all the hitters, none of the pitchers. So and he still has Hunter Green as a minor leaguer who should be in the starting lineup for the Reds, starting rotation, ace rotation guy. James Wood, who's going to take a while to be brought up, but that's a guy with uber, uber power potential for the Washington Nationals. So we're talking about 70, 80 grade prospect power on an 80 grade scale, Harry. Marco Luciano, who's still a work in progress. His stock has fallen a little bit, but there's still intrigue there. He has a lot of raw tools, so it's pretty interesting to see if he's going to develop. Noelvi Marte, who I absolutely adore, absolutely love. He could play shortstop or third base for you. And Jordan Lawler is another guy, power speed combination at the shortstop position. I told you, man. When I saw your minor leaguers and the lax rules that your league has for those guys, I was more excited about your minor league players than I was about your major
You
league
did say
players.
that. You did say that. You got all like geeked up about it, which made me happy. I was like, well, so the commissioner did say to me, I think I showed you in the email. He said that I was inheriting a good team. He said the
Mm,
guy just finally wanted to retire. He was kind of done
yeah.
doing it, older gentleman, but that I did inherit a good team. That I wasn't it wasn't something terrible by any means. So
So
I
I,
think and I think we have the fifth pick in the draft.
oh boy, what is that? Well, this is a bad example because the first 60, right? So pick number 65 according to Fantasy Pros is Nolan Jones, which but Logan Gilbert's still there. Assuming assuming that he would nobody would keep him. But this is theoretical. Let's say the first 60 guys are gone. So okay, Logan Gilbert's available, Royce Lewis is available, but I mean you seem to be pretty set at the offensive positions. But yeah, you got some pitchers there to choose from if you want to like look to rebuild your starting rotations, right?
Right.
Because technically speaking, you only got Hunter Green and that's it. That's not gonna cut it for you, but it's a nice little foundation. But if I were you, that's who I would go with. I would not keep Clayton Kershaw. I would not keep Walker Bueller. There's a lot of guys that I don't. I would not. I was even thinking maybe he should keep Ryan Helsley, but no, screw that. No, I wouldn't do that either. Does that put you behind the eight ball and starting pitcher? Probably, but like I said, Logan Gilbert's available, maybe. Grayson Rodriguez maybe is available. Joan Duran. After, and again, these are theoretically speaking. I don't know if these guys will be available in your league or not, but theoretically, hypothetically speaking, if you're looking at the first 60 guys who are taken, and you look at the, I thought I was sharing my screen. My bad. Let me share my screen again. If let's say that the your draft starts here, pick number 61. Your fifth pick, Logan Gilbert, or go after Royce Lewis or Alex Bregman. You got options. Grayson Rodriguez. Theoretically speaking, if you only want to concentrate on pitchers, Jesus Luzardo, who I adore. Zach Eflin, who is a control artist and he plays for Tampa Bay Rays, who have turned his career around. He's always had really good control, but now looks like he has the strikeouts to go with it finally. Kyle Bradish, who kind of came out of nowhere for the Orioles. There's your guy, David Benner, future Yankee closer. I don't know. But here's Yuri Perez, 20-year-old, 6'8" guy for the Miami Marlins with lightning stuff. Is he going to be coddled? Probably. But you're going to enjoy him while he lasts. I know I did last year. Bobby Miller, same thing. You're going to enjoy him while he lasts because I did last year. Justin Steele, do you believe that last year was a breakout and he's going to be this consistent left-handed pitcher for the Cubs? Or was last year a fluke? Only one way to find out. Joe Ryan is still a work in progress, but I love the guy too. I love what the Twins do up there. I love a lot of these guys, except for Dylan Cease. He can go kick rocks. So Dylan Cease is high strikeout guy, high upside guy, but he's like Kerry Wood. Command issues, control issues, gives up too many walks. That was the Kerry Wood's downfall to his career was,
Achilles heel. Yeah.
yeah, was the fact that he didn't take care of his body. He ate a lot of food that it took him a while to realize that he needs to take better care of his body if he wants to pitch for a long time in this game. Injuries and just the fact that the guy was unhittable, but after a while he just could not locate those pitches anymore, and other teams knew about this and he took advantage of it. So anyway, we've had a long conversation, but it's a good way to start the 2024 season 5 of the Total Basis podcast. With that being said, you have any other questions or any last words, any last shots you want to give out before we call it a night?
I'm just grateful for everything you did tonight, and I can't wait for the next episode in a couple weeks. Hope you have me back on. Uh, you know, to see how I make through my journey with this. I've learned a lot tonight. Like I learned more than I have ever done in any baseball fantasy league before. So
I'm happy
I'm
to hear that.
I'm very, very grateful. You definitely know your stuff. Anyone who tells you
Thank you.
different, they're full of shit. Excuse my language. Because there was no hesitation, man. You were just like bam, bam, bam. You know, yeah, it was like actually listening to a podcast, like if somebody didn't know, you know what I mean? Like for a minute, like I never knew this side of you. I mean, I've listened to some of your stuff here and there, but not enough to like.
Hmm.
But now being a part of it for a whole episode, I'm really impressed.
Most,
So,
no,
uh,
I appreciate it. I appreciate the kind words. I mean, it's my hobby, it's my pastime. I owe a lot to this activity, man. It really did change. It changed my life. I'm getting a little emotional just thinking about it. But I think about where I was back in 2012, 2013. Not just where I was as a aspiring sports writer, but trying to relearn things from a fantasy baseball perspective and trying to just redevelop everything and relearn, just take a whole new level approach to this sport and just to baseball in general, not just fantasy, but in real life baseball. And just the idea that this really accelerated my career in my bread job. I owe a lot to it. Baseball has always been my sanctuary. It's always been just there for me. I grew up with not a lot of friends, but spent a lot of times in my dad's basement, my parents' basement, just looking at baseball, USA Today's Baseball Weekly newspaper. Or my dad had subscriptions to the Chicago Tribune. First thing I would do is flip it back to after I read the bullshit stories, I would go back um, to the stats, the box scores, and see how everybody did, how Mark Grace for the Cubs did, how Sammy Sosa did, how Ryan Sandberg did, and how Ken Griffey Jr. Well, maybe not them because there used to be a cutoff time, right, Harry? So if the game ended too late, we wouldn't get certain games until the following day. Because
Right.
yeah, but well, how the Yankees do? Oh, they won again. They're winning 129 games this year. Fuck the Yankees, right?
I get it. I'm not mad about it. I get
But
it.
and I would just like you said, hand and paper. I used to do the same thing. I didn't even know I was what I was. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was a 12-year-old kid, 10-year-old kid, just trying to pass time over the summer, because I rubbed my friends the wrong way, or I didn't want to hang out with them. I just wanted to stay home and look at my baseball newspaper and just keep track of all the statistics. And I don't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't even know what I was doing was technically a fantasy baseball activity or exercise. I just knew that I was in baseball heaven. This is my sanctuary, and who knew that 30 years later I'd be talking to a guy I never met before in my life in person from Connecticut, and we would be talking about this, and not just you, but throughout the country. A guy from Alabama, a guy from Inland Empire, California, guys from New York, guy from Florida. It's just crazy that this is what this baseball game has done for me in my life. It's the connections that you make with people is also the most important. And I haven't even mentioned my fantasy league mates throughout the years. Guys from New Orleans. I literally helped out a guy in New Orleans, our commissioner. He got hit by Katrina, and I was just a teenage or in my early 20s college kid. I didn't know what to do for the guy, so I did the only thing I knew what to do, and I told an adult about it, like a real actual adult. I told the rest of my league mates in my fantasy football and fantasy basketball league, hey, my commissioner in fantasy baseball, he could use some help. Can you guys do anything? Oh my God, Harry, the things we did for that guy,
That's wonderful.
it's just amazing. Him and his brother, because both of them were in our leagues, but they both got flooded out by Katrina,
Wow.
and it's pretty remarkable the community that this fantasy baseball can build up for you. So anyway, on that touchy note, it's my guy Harry. Tell people where they can find you.
So you know, Felipe and I have a podcast, a Wrestling Purest podcast that we do on and off. It's not necessarily regular, because we do particular topics. We try to blend our stuff together. Some of it ends up, crossing over into baseball and other things, just because Felipe loves baseball so much, but it ends up working out and making sense. We also have the Wrestling Purist Facebook group. We have, we're also all in baseball life for all the life groups. We have the Sports Witness. For you movie lovers out there, we just created the Real Perspectives group. Um,
REEL, by the way.
yeah, REEL. We did that on purpose. Shout out to Richard Parrish for his graphics, like he always has. He's made almost everything for me. Love that guy to death. But yeah, so we're just multitasking type guys that just love to debate or discuss or share our thoughts about different things, different passions. So it's definitely, sports, movies and TV, and wrestling, So nothing wrong with that.
It's amazing. Like I said, if you can network with people with share interests, and it's not a toxic issue, it's not a vitriol issue. It's a beautiful thing. That's the reason why I'm grateful for all these life groups, and especially me through these life groups, I got to meet you, and it's like I go from the life groups and I go into your dimension, and you have your own things going, and I think it's wonderful, man. I think it just shows that the internet is what you make of it. I preach this all the time. The internet is what you make of it. If you want to deal with toxicity, you want to deal with trolls and with getting into fights for no reason, and daring people like come over to my neck of the woods and see if you can survive. I'm not making fun of you, Harry, by the way. I'm just saying that this is like typical bullshit that you see on the internet. But the other aspect is what we have had. I only met you I've only started like what would you say? Really talking to you over the like in the last past year or so?
Yeah, no, yeah, past year is really true.
Yeah. But I've
Uh,
known
we
you
we
longer than
we
that.
we
Just
have EJ Fulbright to thank. Love that guy to death. Thanks to EJ. I met
and
him
I,
in wrestling life. I didn't like the scene at that particular night, and hit up EJ with some courage. I'm like, I got a different group that talks a little different about wrestling.
Yeah,
And I wasn't even using my own group at the time because my own group was mostly full of people I didn't really get along with. So I kind of, put my group to the side and we all were talking in iHeart Wrestling. And then that's when he brought you in the iHeart Wrestling. And
he
then
did. Yeah.
that's how I kind of met you. And then I joined some of the other life groups. And then it kind of just snowballed from there.
By
And
the way, I've known EJ. I've never met the guy in person, but I've known EJ for 20 years now.
that's crazy.
The
That's
same,
great.
and all because of fantasy sports, man.
That's great and crazy. I mean, listen, I've had that experience. Justin Taylor, the guy who took Travis Kelce first, I met him on the Walking Dead Road to Survival mobile game. You know what I mean? Like, and we just kind of hit it off. We had the same faction together. It was, that game was addicting. I 100% suggest no one play that game. It's a paywall and it's addicting and it'll ruin your life. Anyhow,
Good
I
to
don't play
know.
it. I don't play it anymore. But the point is that Justin and I stayed close, and we chat maybe every couple weeks, and shoot each other a text here and there. And he's in my fantasy football league. He's been doing that now about 3 or 4 years. And so even though we don't both play the game anymore, never met in real life, talked about it. Me going to Cincinnati or him coming out here, and then real life takes into play. But we do chat here and there. He had Facebook at one point and he got rid of it. But politics, I guess, ruined it for him. But the point was that I understand that experience between you and EJ. You never met in real life, but you met a different way. And so there is positivity that comes out of the internet. And
Hmm.
I think, if I go back a little further, it's Henry Maldonado who got me eventually into all these other groups. That's where I got, it was all the United Boxing Corner. My buddy Anthony Tommy Golf has a group for boxing. And that's where I met Henry and Bobby Backlund and Steve P and a bunch of other guys. And then I got dragged into the Fountain Sports
Oh
Legends
God.
group. Yeah, it's a really petty group. I mean, they
It's
mean well, but it's really a bunch of pettiness.
it's extremely petty. I
But
couldn't do it anymore. It's
but
just
I've left there a couple of times and I got dragged back, and I don't really associate in there as much anymore.
with
There's a couple of guys in there I don't care for, but the point is that if it wasn't for those groups, I probably wouldn't have met EJ and then wouldn't have met you. So
yeah.
you have to take the good with the bad, But I
Hmm.
mean, I still like some of the guys in Fountains, and I still talk to them here and there. And some of them are crossed over into Wrestling Purist and everywhere else.
Yeah.
Um, so my buddy Steve, by the way, is like the three Terry Kleskos and the Scrayshawn Odoms, Williams, whatever. He's got like 5 different pages. So that's my buddy Steve.
I
Who,
saw
who,
I
who
saw I saw I'm sorry to cut you off, but you mentioned Terry Klesko. I just accepted him into the baseball life group. I just saw his name show up twice. Like, well, I know who he is.
I
I
invited him today. I
okay.
invited him today because he has 3 different, he's just a guy that always seems to be,
Yeah.
get himself in trouble. So he's got a couple different, hopefully it rats you out, buddy. But yeah, so he's even an admin in Wrestling Purist, it just
Yeah.
depends on when he pops in. So, but he tends to gravitate more towards iHeart Wrestling, and that's okay. But my point is that, you know, just being in one group a couple of years ago gravitated to something else, and then you and I ended up getting closer over the past year. I asked you, how do I brought a group together, a bunch of us talk about wrestling in a chat one night, and we all had a phone call, like a video or a phone call through Facebook Messenger about doing a wrestling podcast, and then you hit me up and said, "Look, I think that maybe you need to find a partner," and I know someone, and you hooked me up with Corey, and Corey and I did our thing for a bit. Corey's a good guy. I still talk to him. We're not doing that podcast anymore. Things just happen to change, but I still like Corey a lot. I think Corey's good people. And then it just kind of worked out. The TNA thing happened. Impact turned to TNA. I thought of you and EJ right away, and then I invited you guys on the show, and then you and I decided to keep Wrestling Purist going. So
Yeah. And it's well, I mean, we talked long enough, but yeah, check us out there. And of course, we have the Life Group podcast page on YouTube and on Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio. So yeah, you'll see all the websites that I use on the YouTube page. And if audio is more of your thing, Spotify is my go-to. So check us out there, follow us. If you find this information useful, by all means, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a 5-star rating. Because that way, that's how we know that this is what we're doing is useful to people who have the same passion for baseball. And hopefully it, what's that word? Domino effect. I've been watching a lot of Vietnam videos lately, Vietnam War videos. So domino effect, right? Domino theory. So hopefully the more people listen, the more people see, the more people rate, the more people follow, should hopefully creates a domino effect where everybody else can chime in and tune in and take advantage of this information. Unless you don't want to win your fantasy baseball championships, then don't listen to us. So, in that regard, that's Harry over there. Thank you for being on the show today. We'll see you next time. I am Felipe. This has been the Total Basis Podcast. Take care, everybody.